I think this is a really magnificent adventure opening up for all of humanity, to be able to capture for the first time, without being a guru or a mystic or fasting for 40 days, to be able to capture at will beings that are of a different dimension to ours is quite a new experience in the history of humanity.
To me, it has made the spiritual reality much more real than ever before. I was always aware that exists, that this spiritual reality is an extension of the physical reality that we have. But now we actually have an evidence of it, and that is a big thing. We're not alone.
It's a very interesting phenomena in the ocean because you can see orbs better than in the air. And the dolphins remind me, and all of those swimming with me, that there are many things that we cannot always see, but that exist.
It's like a big natural high. It's really hard to come down from. I take most of my photos at night, and I come in sometimes. It's like, well, it's 2 a.m. You really should go to bed. Yeah, right. You know, that's going to happen. How do you come down from something as absolutely fantastic as all of that? You know. To answer your question, if they can take a while to learn cameras. Like I swapped cameras, and they can take a while to adjust to a new electronic tool, basically. So there is an adjustment period that they learn. And I've since then got another camera, and it took them a while to be able to show themselves well on that too. So they learn. I mean, they're intelligent, these things, and they actually really want to be seen a lot of the time. And so they learn to show themselves through these tools that we give them, whatever they are.
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people, because these angels or angelic forces, or nature spirits as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
And all of a sudden I hear him go, whoa, or, you know, something like that. So I look up, and as I look up, I see this thing.
And I said, I've never seen a butterfly like you before.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
As soon as I spoke to it, it turns around and makes eye contact with me. And then it stands upright.
And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. Its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped.
And I started talking to them. I'm like, hi, are y'all the dwarves? And I would hear whispers that would say, hi, yeah, you want to play? And it wasn't just my imagination. And I had told them, I'm like, my dwarves, they like beer, you know? And my dad's like, yeah, sure, your dwarves like beer. And they were holding a conversation, and his beer slid upwards instead of downwards, how the house was tilted. And him and my brothers jumped up.
So I stopped calling out Adam, and I'm just kind of, my mind draws a blank, and I stop behind that tree stump. I'm pretty close to it now because I took a few steps forward, and I see this thing
I get a lot of phone calls and emails and letters from people who woke up in the middle of the night thinking something terrible was invading their campground when they suddenly were hearing barred owls. They're often doing that because they're hearing another pair or individual barred owl on an established territory, and that's when the pair starts really revving up and making those territorial calls. One night, I was being totally quiet, just walking along this road, and in flew two barred owls. There was a full moon behind them, and you could actually see their eyes as they were calling, and it was just magical.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Liz.
How you going?
Super well. In fact, the owl just started hooting as I initiated this call.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there he goes again.
That's great.
There he goes again. They the way that the onomatopoeia for an owl's call goes is, "Who cooks for you?" So it's like who cooks for you? Who cooks for you?
That's fabulous.
Oh, there he goes. Wow. I recently discovered that this owl that has been haunting my podcast has moved in and has a partner just outside my door, pretty much. And so many nights I've been hearing it call at night.
Love it.
I don't know how into fairies you are, because I know that you're...
No, well, I'm actually into fairies as well. I'm out there with the whole lot.
Right on. Okay, well, I live in this condominium called the Riverstone Place. It's pretty new. It's like 2 years old. And where it is like... listen to this checklist. So where it is that it's a block from the ocean. It's next to the river where there's waterfalls, and there's 3 waterfalls in a cascade. And then the river has carved out a giant ravine over time. And so across the ravine is a railroad track at the top of the ravine. And connecting the railroad track across the ravine is a bridge which lets out right at my door, which is where the owl is currently living in that post.
How fabulous.
So when I open my door, I look out onto a waterfall, the train tracks, and the bridge all are within 50 feet of my line of sight of my front door.
You're spoiled.
I didn't realize how fairy conjuring this place was until recently. So someone pointed out to me that like train tracks are liminal spaces, rivers are liminal spaces, bridges are liminal spaces, and I was like, whoa, I have like
all of those.
I could like if I was 50 feet tall, I could touch all 3 of those things standing in one spot. And so it's maybe no surprise that now there's an owl family on top of everything else. So
just wonderful.
Yeah. So I don't know. Have you listened to the show out of curiosity?
I started to, and then I got interrupted and didn't get back to it. So I'll I'll do that before we do the proper interview. Because that's really fascinating to me as well.
Well, I was going to say, my show is really just conversation based. And if you've got the time, since it's been so difficult to connect, we could just talk today, because really all that I do in my show is talk to people that have seen or recorded, encountered things that would basically qualify within the realm of Fae.
Okay.
And as a result of that, like, a lot of people that I have spoken to have described orb activity either as their Fae activity or directly associated with their Fae activity, preceding, following, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You have some of the higher quality, honestly, orb photos on all of the internet.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
You truly do. And furthermore, your approach to showcasing them is very well done. And
oh, thank you.
That's why I reached out, because I was like, this person is actually capturing these and is showcasing them in an elegant way, and not like, so just for some context, because you haven't listened to the show. So let me just tell you a couple of things about myself to build some comfort before I ask if I can actually interview you.
Sure.
So I'm from Canada. I'm 45. Prior to my fairy sighting in 2019, did not give a fuck about fairies at all. Truly. Lowest thing on my priority.
I can imagine that. Yep.
Yeah. I was like busy making money, doing stuff with other stuff, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just typical man. But what happened is that in 2019, I had a fairy enter the wheelhouse of my boat while I was with my girlfriend at the time, and it blew both of our minds. It was truly astonishing.
Yes.
And I won't spoil it for you because I tell it in detail in the show to Claire, the fairy whisperer from the UK. But anyway, the short version is that this thing came in. It was illuminated with an intense purple, unlike anything I've ever experienced. The intensity of the volume of its wings and its light source were both unmatched in my life. I've never heard anything that completely loud or seen anything that completely bright ever before, and will probably never again. And it was like reality altering for me, truly. And so fast forward, I now host Fascinating Fae, because I started the show because I was not satisfied with my research into so for a long time it was just the thing. What was that thing, right? And then it gradually became like, well, it did have wings. It was kind of small and like and moved so I eventually begrudgingly was like,
damn it, it's a fairy.
It was fairy. It was a fucking fairy. Yeah. What the shit? And so all of my research thereafter was, generally speaking, not very satisfying to me, because I'm an analytical A-type alpha male kind of guy, and I was like, this is all just folklore stories and bullshit. Where is what I saw? Where's the fucking fact sheet on what I saw? Where is even anybody talking about what I saw actually? And I found very little contemporary stuff.
Information, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, and I'm just speaking honestly here, my trajectory of understanding around this subject matter is, there's the owl again, is growing to incorporate a better understanding of what folklore and this other stuff may be, which that's we can talk about that philosophical stuff during our chat if that's cool with you, because I kind of think that maybe folklore is actually a technical owner's manual to life with interdimensional beings.
Yes, I agree.
But I didn't think that before.
Neither did I.
So like, you're in friendly company. Like I'm also like semi clairvoyant in my own way. I'm figuring out about myself, And I just feel really drawn to speak with you because I just see your orb pictures as super high quality reflections of what many people on my show are talking about. And although you don't have a female shaped, bright winged fairy that, you know, I can look at.
But I do. I'll send it to you.
Okay, well, okay, there you go. So maybe this is why I feel so drawn to speak with you, because I need to continue this journey of understanding. I gotta say, like, it's been dark here for at least an hour, right?
Yeah.
And when I hit click on the call is when the owl started hooting. It was just like truly right then and there.
Wonderful.
And that owl, for some context, showed up when I was editing an episode and like crashed my computer, and my computer crashed, and I got up only to look out the window to see the owl staring in to my house through the window. So that's a fae, pretty sure. And it crashed my computer precisely at the moment in the editing sequence when I was talking to this woman, Vicky, about the owl that I saw the day that I saw my fairy. Because I did see an owl in the trees 5 feet from my face, along with my partner at the time, earlier in the day that we saw the fairy. Which leads me to believe that owl was the fairy and was checking us out in advance of revealing itself to us in its full fairy form, leading me ultimately down a journey to host this show. And yeah, it's Fascinating Fae. You got it. We're on the same page now. So
yep.
I don't want to spoil any of the amazing things I'm about to learn from you by learning them off the show. Can I just bring you on the show? It's really no big deal. I'm just going to introduce you and bring you on the show, pretty much.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So give me a 5-second break so I know where to edit, and then we'll just do it.
Okay.
So Liz from Australia. Just before I do that, I forgot. Let me give you a couple of things to know. Number one, I don't like to interrupt my guests very much at all. So once I ask you to get into your storytelling, or once I prompt you with questions, take as much time as you like. Truly, there's no rush here. The other thing is that we are not here to convince anybody of anything. So this is never going to produce a gotcha moment, anything like that. I only ask questions out of genuine curiosity as a fellow person who is curious about this stuff. And then lastly, at the end of the show, I usually ask my guests to just say their own last words. And so that'll be something that you encounter at the end. And but when you do that, we're not actually hanging up. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because sometimes I've had guests think that, like, oh, that's when they hang up. But no, like it's a podcast, so I'll edit it later. But you know.
Okay.
So that's all. There's no rush. I'm fascinated, and I believe you're capturing real things, and that's the context of this, basically. So.
Okay. Before you start, can I just tell you, I have an owl story also. It won't take very long, but my mother was in a nursing home with dementia, and I'd go and visit her every day, and it was getting towards the very end of her life, and we both knew it. She couldn't talk to me, and I'd try and connect with her on a spiritual level, just, psychically, which worked sometimes and not all of the time. But 6 weeks before she actually passed, I had an owl turn up right outside my bedroom window, and it did what it did to you. It just looked in at me. And I went outside and I sort of spoke to it, and it didn't move away. And I tried to sort of touch it, and it sort of hooted at me. So I jumped back. Okay, no touching, no fine. Anyway, I just spent time with it. I just sat with it, and I sort of spoke to it and thanked it for the visit, and then went back inside and thought, that's so cool. I met an owl. That's so cool. The next morning, it was still there. So I went out again and spoke to it, and then it kind of took up residence on the clothesline. It would go out and hunt at night, and then we were allowed to hang our clothes outside, unlike some places in the world. So it lived on the clothesline, and every morning it would still be there. It would hunt at night and come back and sit on the clothesline. And I'd go out, hang out for washing, whatever, and it would jump on my shoulder. This is a completely wild animal, but but we had connected. And so even if I didn't have the washing to do, I'd just go out every single day and I'd spend time with it. It would just see me and jump on my shoulder. And we'd just walk around outside. I spoke to it and told it about my mum and, whatever it was, because I was pretty distressed at losing her, as you might imagine. And this owl just brought me comfort for 6 weeks, every single day. And then the day before she passed, it flew away. And then she passed, and then, so on. And I was so upset at losing both of them at the same time, losing my mum and the owl at the same time. I called it back. I put out sort of an all-persons bulletin on it and said, "You can't leave now. You've been so good to me. You've been so comforting and such a great friend. Can you just please come back just one more time and let me thank you for all the time we've spent together?" Well, the very next morning, it was back. We had another pretty well whole day together where it just sat on my shoulder, or it wrapped its claw around my finger, and we were just mates, and then it flew off and I never saw it again. I was just so grateful, and to this day I'll never ever forget my encounter with the owl.
Liz, the entire time you were talking, the owl was hooting outside my window.
You've probably got it now. It's moved to Canada.
When you say that it's just landing on your shoulder, that is so remarkable.
Yeah.
When it did it the first time, what did you feel emotionally? May I ask that question, please?
Yeah, sure. I was overwhelmed. I was so grateful. I mean, I have a bond with a lot of animals. I'm fairly empathic or empathetic, and I can talk to horses, sort of, birds certainly, but I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't expecting this wild animal to just embrace me. But I also felt that it was kind of a gift from my dad, who had passed earlier, and he was kind of sending me this owl. We had a thing for owls, both he and I. He was sending me this owl as comfort in a really stressful and sad time in my life. And I felt chosen by this owl, basically. I mean, when an animal chooses you and gives you unconditional love and attention, there's not much else like it.
There's nothing like it. Can I share some of my analogous experiences, although not with an owl?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, first of all, I know that you're not a listener to the show, which is, I mention here...
I will be.
Yeah, thank you for that. And truly, each conversation I have, I feel like, I'm just going to say it, I just feel like each conversation I have, I'm like, fuck, these are just gold. This is gold podcasting. Like, sign me up for a podcast award, because like, I would listen to this show. Like, I'm listening to you right now, and I would listen to this. Let's talk more about owls for a second. Let me go into my owl a little bit more for you, and for the audience listening, this will be kind of a recap. And I will bring you on the show as I formally do here in a minute, but this is just way too cool, so we'll talk about this stuff now.
Okay.
I am also empathetic to a fault. I'm a vegan animal rights activist when I can be, and I've done quite a lot of that in my life in big ways, because I truly believe that like our consciousnesses, the ones that we as human beings relate to one another as possessing, are more or less the same structure of consciousness in other living things.
Absolutely.
And so, like, when you think about like what you want in a day or how you feel about experiences, mark my words, every animal around you is pretty much going through the same internal dialogues, And yes. So this is why, if you can alter your perception of what an animal is fundamentally away from whatever messed up like food pyramid teachings you were originally given, and you can put them in their proper context as fellow aliens on this spaceship with you, all 3 billion years that it took to co-evolve together intact behind us as a contract, with the next 3 billion years ahead of us as a contract, and to just not rock the boat so fucking hard. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All of these life forms are too irreplaceably precious to, like, if you go just the non-theological route and you just go purely atheistic and you're like, yeah, this is all just random chance. Well, even that is way too precious to fuck with, because what are the chances it'll happen again? You got no, you might be extinguishing the last dragonfly of its type or something, or ant of its type, or frog of its type, by just plowing ahead with normal human mindset. And that is obvious. So it's like, that's a known fact about what we've done to the incredible gift of creation that we find ourselves waking up in every day. Now, this is all to say that, like, animals actually want relationships with people that are deeper than most people understand.
Yes.
Are capable not only of having extremely deep and nuanced relationships with you, but wild animals in particular are astonishing in their capacity for this. It's not just your pets. That's what is the thing that really blows my mind open about my veganism, and then subsequently my connection to animals, because I'm the guy in my neighborhood that everyone knows the birds land on. And it's just so interesting that you're talking about the owl landing on you.
Yeah.
And recently, and it's really interesting that we're talking about birds, because I just finished talking with a woman who, these episodes could end up being 4 hours each, I feel like, but I just spoke with a woman from Texas, and she and I have an interesting shared connection where I was assaulted brutally by the police for no reason, and they just about killed me. And then, I know, and then her partner also had a very similar experience, like almost identical in the way it unfolded and the aftermath of it. And, I've like popped on over to this person's Instagram, looked at me, looked at her partner. I'm like, what cop would fucking try to take down either of us like that? Like, we don't look the part. It just doesn't make any sense. So not only was it like a compassionate connection, but I didn't know this was going to happen when we started the call, right? And so I go outside because there's a commotion before the call starts, and there's the police officer who comes running around the corner suddenly. I have this conversation with this police officer. He goes away. I'm all shook up. I'm like, that was really strange. And out from the bushes right in front of my, as I just described, incredibly liminal
yes.
space, out of the blackberry bushes, which are also part of this melee, comes running a robin with right beside it a hummingbird at its side. Wow. And they come busting over and land. The hummingbird hovers over the robin's head for 4 or 5 seconds and lands beside the robin, right side by side. And they both look at me. And I say to them, I'm okay. And then the robin comes closer, and the hummingbird also comes closer. And I say, I'm okay. They leave, and I'm like, that was so weird. I've never seen a robin and a hummingbird together. I've never seen them like buds. Like, they were buddies. It's the best way I could describe it. And then I get on the phone with Katie, and I tell her this story. I'm like, sorry for being late. I got to tell you this story. She's like, she jumps in. She's like, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm about to tell you about a hummingbird that I'm pretty sure is a fairy. Yes. and she's like, and also the robin is my favorite bird. And what are the fucking chances of that, right? And so now I'm talking with you about birds again, and you're also talking about this owl landing on you, and in your emotional perception and intuitive perception that it's a connection around your mother, around your father, around that period of time.
Yeah.
I was basically saying, when is a bird not a bird? right? When is a bird a fairy? Because the Fae can shapeshift.
Yes.
And they can literally shapeshift and look like what any other thing would look like. Like they can actually appear, I truly believe, like full-size people, because I'm really confused to this day, and I just put this episode out last week, where the two people that were making the commotion came from and went, and why that cop arrived so suddenly after I came outside to check on the commotion, and then where he went. And then I was like this is a total mishmash here, so I'm going to try to pull this together into some logical thinking. Point A, I think it's remarkable that we both have an owl thing, and that the owl started hooting when I started this call and was hooting nonstop when you were talking, but is currently quiet, just for some context. 2, I think it's remarkable that the last episode I published was basically all centered around, were these two birds actually these two birds, or were these fairies representative of Katie's Fae, who were all part of that orchestrated experience, the commotion, the cop, me coming out, essentially in a mini format confronting my exact experience that I had just referred to, where I was assaulted by the police, which shook me up. Then these two birds come out. Then I get on the phone with her, and she's like, I'm about to tell you that my partner was also assaulted, and I'm about to tell you a story about a robin and a hummingbird. So that's the contextual string that I'm trying to pull together, but also really inspired by what you're saying around animals and your ability to connect with wild animals. So to bring it back to what I was gonna say, I want to tell you about a wild animal love that I have as well. This squirrel named Swoosh. I named her Swoosh because she was around so much, but I lived on a 40,000 acre nature preserve on this place called Malcolm Island, which itself only has about 300 people living on it. It's a huge island. It takes like hours to drive around this place. And it's in the far north of British Columbia, basically opening up onto the far North Pacific Ocean. It's a intentionally extremely remote place. Like I had gone through a lot in my life, and I had decided I'm going to go do this. This is something I always wanted to do. So I went and I lived like off grid. You know, you're talking like an hour to the nearest grocery store, and that's really just the gas station.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, it was ideal. And so in this deep bush environment, there's no lights, there's really nothing. And one spring, this baby red squirrel started coming around. And I named her Swoosh. You know, she was stealing from the bird feeder, typical squirrel. Red squirrels, by the way, are like the native squirrel to British Columbia. They're not the European black or gray squirrel. They're quite small. If you look them up, they're adorable. They look like little tiny teddy bears. And they're ranked as the number 15 most intelligent animal on Earth, despite their size. They're incredibly smart. And so this little squirrel started to come around, and, you know, eventually it got to the point where it would, you know, just eat. Like it took, I remember very distinctly the time it took a cashew from my hand for the first time. You know, it was a huge victory. I'd been following Swoosh around the yard of my cabin for months with a cashew in my hand, chasing her around, trying to give it to her. And eventually she figured out, like, this human isn't trying to catch me. I think it's trying to give me that thing. And, you know, once that initial moment of unlocking happened, it was like, it really progressed quickly. And I've been like heavily traumatized, as I mentioned. And so one of the things that I kind of figured out through the journey of recovery was like how to work with my own energy field, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
You know, basically healing touch, pranic energy, Reiki,
yep.
The minister laying his hand on you and you all of a sudden talking in tongues. Whatever the case is that you want to name it as, human beings possess a type of internal light that they can do stuff with, basically.
Absolutely. Yep.
So for everyone listening, my personal Instagram is @thejimwhite, just as it sounds. And you can go see a video of what I'm about to tell Liz about. I started to not only feed Swoosh, but I started to just decide like, well, can I give Swoosh some good vibes? Can I give her some energy work? You know? Now here's this little wild squirrel. Literally, I'm the only human she knows. This isn't a park squirrel, right? This isn't a pet. She would start to come around for energy work as much as anything. And there's a video where you can find on my Instagram. It's easy to see because I'm cupping Swoosh with my hand. I've got my hand completely cupping around her, like completely. You can just find that video and click play and watch what happens. She's eating some sunflower seeds, and she's so comfortable with me at this point that I can like pull on her tail or bop her on the head. Like we're buddies. Like this, she doesn't mind anything I do. I can pick her up. You know, It was remarkable, right? And so in this one video, I'm just giving her some energy work. This was one of the first times I had done it, and I decided to film it to see if I could capture this moment. And she just like, she's eating sunflower seeds like a little fiend, you know? And but as the energy work starts to kick in, she kind of like stops eating. And at one point it's really kind of cute. She's got like half a sunflower seed in her mouth that she was mid-chew. But this look comes over her face like, whoa, what's going on? And then the sunflower seed just kind of falls out of her mouth. and then she like kind of goes all soft and closes her eyes and leans right back into my hand. Oh. And you can clearly see that she's doing nothing but getting this energy that I'm giving her. And that was the first time I'd ever really seen it work on an animal that was not a dog in some video on the internet of a dog getting Reiki or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, this is a wild animal, no context for understanding. It's not like, you know, maybe someone would train their dog to do that when they put their hand above it, right? There's so many ways you could debunk what people are trying to showcase as energy work on animals. But if you go and look at this little video of Swoosh, it's truly, she's receiving that. And then here's how much personality and clairvoyance animals really do possess. So much like you and the owl, I was having a really rough time the year before I left Malcolm Island. I did 4 years of almost total isolation, sometimes not seeing another person for 100 days at a time. And that's cool for a while, but then it eventually turns in on itself and becomes like solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And so towards the end, I had overdone it, you know, like I'm talking in retrospect now, my isolation. And I found myself snowed in on Christmas the year before I left. And I mean, I was really snowed in. When you get snowed in up there, you're fucked. Until it melts.
Yeah.
You know, and thankfully it's British Columbia, so it doesn't stick around forever. But so I had been like 2-3 days in the cabin, really, you know, like truly cabin fever, 1.5 feet of snow outside, not really able to do much except be in this cabin. And Christmas morning, you know, occurs. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, this is my Christmas morning. Like, what am I fucking doing with my life? and I'm having this moment, and then I hear Swoosh. Because what she would do is when she would arrive out of the woods, she would stand in this little tree next to the cabin and call for me. But I mean, Swoosh is hibernating. This is middle of winter. She's not out. I don't usually see her again until February or March minimum, right? And even then, like sometimes April, you know. And it's been 4 years I've been living up there, so I know when she comes around and when she's hibernating. And I had never seen her in the winter ever for 3 years prior. And I'm having like an absolutely miserable Christmas, if you can kind of catch my subtext.
Yeah.
Right? And in the tree is Swoosh. She comes running over. How you doing? She's running all over, sitting on my shoulder. We spent the whole day together. She came in the house. She had never done that before. She was chattering at me, sitting on the side of my bed. It was wild. and then she left, and I didn't see her again for months. And then Valentine's Day rolled around about 2 months later. And I was having an equally bad Valentine's Day for different reasons. I wasn't snowed in, but it was just more like, man, this is a lonely day and I'm lonely.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there she shows up again. Didn't see her again for a minimum of 6 weeks. And so the only 2 times I saw her that entire winter, and I hadn't seen her any winter for 3 years prior, was Christmas morning and Valentine's Day. So you tell me what's going on with that squirrel, right?
She's plugged into you.
Yeah, like once a connection is forged with an animal, it can become permanent, clairvoyant. Honestly, once your heart is connected to another person, it can transcend time and space as well.
Yes.
So I encourage everybody to do it, to find an animal and love it. What were you about to say, Liz, please?
Do you have a bird called a willy wagtail? I'm not sure if you do.
No, definitely not in Canada. Is there a bird called a willy wagtail?
Yep.
I can guarantee you that, but now I need to know. Tell me about the willy wagtail.
Okay, it's a fantail. So they've got the tail that goes straight up as opposed to straight down, and it opens up like a fan and it wiggles. Hence its name, willy wagtail, and it sounds wild when I try and explain it. But we have. I live in the country. I live in like a rural property in a small country town in Australia, and we have willy wagtails. They're very, very common. But when I first moved here, there was so much bird life, and I planted so many more trees so that there could be even more bird life. And this particular willy wagtail would just come by me when I'm working in the garden and chatter away, and it's very, very social. And I kind of sort of began a relationship with this bird. Wherever I'd go, he would come, and he was like great company out there. So I set up a bird bath and so on, and if the bird bath ever got to a level where it was less than half, Willie would come and bang on my window, no matter what room I was in the house. He'd come and tap on the window and complain that there wasn't enough water for him to get in and splash around with. There was enough to drink, but not enough for him to get in and splash around with, because he used to love doing that and throw his wings up and make a huge mess. But no matter where I was, so how did he know which room in the house I was? I mean, how can he know that? But he'd always find me, and he'd always tap on the window, and I'd always know to go straight out, put some more water in the bird bath, in which case he'd like do loop-the-loops and very happy, like, I've trained my human. Look what I've done. She's my pet. And again, just wild bird. But I've had lots of bird encounters here where, they've run into windows or they've been attacked by something else, and I basically try and heal them back to the point where they can fly off again. And they always come back and visit. They're grateful, but I'm grateful for them. I love being around them. They lift everything, and I don't know if they're fairies. We have these little birds called fairy wrens, and they're the sweetest things. They hop around. They've got their little legs are like joined. They can't walk as such. They can only hop, and so they're tiny little things. They hop from blades of grass to blades of grass. They're so light. They don't even bend a blade of grass. They're very pretty. And they're very, very light and happy, and they're just joyous, and they lift the whole vibration of any location, really. So, yeah, the birds are a big deal, and I think they are linked to the fairies within themselves.
I 100% do think that owls are interdimensional birds. Just to bring this full circle, I'll share a couple thoughts that you've inspired, and then I'll bring you on the show. But actually, all of this is going to make it into the show. So. It'll just be an interesting, protracted, unusual intro to Fascinating Fae. So when I decided to start this podcast, it had been about a 4-year journey of confusion following my fairy sighting in 2019. And I decided one night, it had been brewing in my mind to start this show, but I finally decided, I'm going to do it. And I spent the night putting what am I going to call it? Yeah, Fascinating Fae. And then I found fascinatingfae.com is available. Fascinating Fae at Facebook is available. It's available on Instagram. Whoa, cool. And so after 4 or 5 hours of getting stoked, I had a logo, I had my URL, and I had the basics of all my socials secured. under that name, Fascinating Fae. And I was really excited, and I went to bed. And I woke up like a start way too early. Like I probably had only slept 4 hours. And I was unsettled, and I didn't know why. And I opened the Venetian blinds to my window, and right outside my window, staring in at me, was that owl. And so just to recap, the first time I ever saw an owl up close, despite years and years and years of living off-grid in the bush, was the day that I saw a fairy in 2019. And I didn't ever see one again or up close whatsoever until the day I decided to start this podcast, and it was outside the window. And Liz, when you go to my Facebook page for Fascinating Fae later, because you're talking about how you talk to the owl and spend time with it, this owl that most recently shut down my computer when I was editing Vicky's episode, I was like, this is too crazy. I got to get a video of this for everyone to see. So I unhooked my computer and brought it outside, shoved it in the owl's face, who at this point was looking the other way. And I shove it in its face, and I say, hey, Mr. Owl, I think you're a fairy. And as soon as I say that, it turns right around and it looks at me. And I have that on video. And then I was like, I wish I could get a better picture of this owl, because I have severe mobility issues. I walk with double canes. Like even getting the camera out was a lot for me to do, but I needed to do it, right? And I was like, I need a better picture. I need a better picture. I kept thinking that. And this wildlife photographer woman shows up like 5 minutes later with a 2-foot camera out of nowhere and captures some amazing photos of the owl. I proceed to tell her, I think that owl is a fairy. And she gives me the weirdest look. And, later did send me the photos, but it was just too weird. I've never seen her before or since. And that actually brings me to an interesting thing I'm going to throw in here that I was going to tell to Claire Casely from the Fairy Whispering podcast, but I'll tell you, I wonder what you think. So I told you earlier, where I live has a railroad track, waterfall, bridge, river, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
The other day when those 2 little birds came out that I was telling you about, they were preceded by a weird fight that was happening by a couple that was what brought me outside. And then a police officer who arrived very quickly looking for that fighting couple. And then I kind of talked with the police officer and he left. Again, I don't want to go too much back because we're trying to get you on the show here today, but that cop was weird. And those people, I don't know where they went. And the cop, when he left, he just left in a weird way. And it was boiling around in my mind for a few days. Were those actually people? Or was the whole thing Fae? Was it the Fae were the fake people fighting, the Fae was that cop, and then after they left, they popped back out as those 2 birds and left again, and they were checking me out before I went and talked with Katie or something, or sending both Katie and I a message that the Fae are real by reenacting the trauma we're about to share. And so I was stuck on this idea, can Fae show up as full-size people? Is that a thing? And then yesterday I was standing outside and I like to look at the waterfall. I'm really privileged. I have a beautiful uninterrupted view of this waterfall from my deck. It's pretty much I step out and I can walk into the park. My unit is at the park and there's the waterfall. And I'm watching, there's this huge log that has fallen, a huge tree has fallen and bisects the river in the middle of it. And so the part that you get to, from my side, is the part that anyone would get to this river from, because it's got a path, it's got a trail down to the river, it's connected to the road, etc. The part on the other side is between the ravine, which goes up super steep up to the railroad tracks, and there's no access for any person on that side of the river. It's basically a no man's land. This woman... It's okay. I got to describe the sequence of events so it makes sense. So I'm standing and I'm smoking and I'm looking at the waterfall as I do. And from the opposite side where a person should be coming from, this woman pops up on the opposite side of the log, seemingly to my eye from basically the ravine, from the high side of the ravine. And she pops up And she kind of stumbles out of the bushes, and she's like dusting herself off, and she had the weirdest outfit on. It was like a single piece dress that was brown, but it looked like it was made of like a burlap material, almost as if anything, or like a modal cotton. And it had like big sewn on pockets on the front. And she pops out, and there's this heron who fishes the river. I call him Hero the Heron. He's the one heron who lives down there. And so she pops out, and then Hero the Heron goes rah, 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 and takes off. And this suggests that he had been startled.
Yes.
And I hear this woman go, this is exactly what she says. She says, "Whoa, hello, friend," and waves at the heron as it takes off. And then I'm noticing her, but I'm like, I don't want to like stare at this woman. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like so I look away. I look away. I look over at like the bridge to my left. I just look away. So I'm not staring at her. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel her. I'm like, I have to look back. I look back. She's waving at me. she's like 150 feet away, like in the river. And she's waving at me, and she's kind of like, it's hard to describe, but she's like peering, like she's like, where I'm standing, I have a little tree partially obscuring me. So she's like kneeling down a little bit so she can see below the tree to see me. And she's waving at me. As I turn back, she's already waving at me, even though I'm not looking at her. Do you understand? And so I look at her and I wave, and she gives me this big smile. And then she just proceeds up the river, out of view to where she was now be going under the bridge. And it was just so strange. What was really strange about it was how Hero the Heron all of a sudden got startled. Because if this chick was coming up the river, he would have been startled way before.
Yes.
And the way she reacted to the bird was so weird. It was just like, whoa, hi, friend. I thought she was high on drugs, maybe. It is the middle of summer, you know? It is the middle of summer. Maybe this dress is like a hippie chick dress, is what I'm thinking. But like, she was like, there was no reason to be waving at me. Like, I don't know. It was just so strange. And I just wonder, was that the answer to my question? Can Fae show up as people?
Maybe, or it's interdimensional. I've got a really large hedge along the back of one of the fences here, and I go out taking photographs of orbs every single night. And one night I've got this photo of a head. Now this hedge is, it'd be 3 meters high easily. So it's not a little hedge. And this head is about another probably meter above that, and it's got a very, very large body attached to it. This is a huge person, except it's not a person. It's like an outline or an aura, but there's sort of facial features in it. So all I can presume, I don't know about ogres, and I don't know about, the size of extraterrestrials or anything, but it was not of this dimension, this person or this thing that I captured in my photo. And it may be the same thing with you. I mean, you may have, where you're living, which sounds very magical, you may have some sort of a portal or some sort of a doorway into something that allows, the Fae folk or whatever it is that's visiting you to drop in every now and then. They may not realise that there's a barrier, between the two dimensions. I mean, I don't know. It's just something I hypothesize about for myself, because I see all sorts of interesting things, just like you do.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do the following things, if this is okay with you here tonight, Liz. For everybody listening, welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight, we're traveling to Australia to talk with Liz. And so, Liz, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Lovely to be here.
Honestly, before we even started the show process, we hit the touch points that are all my favorite things to talk about in the pre-conversation. So thank you for fulfilling my intuitive sense that I needed to talk with you, because what we do here on the show at Fascinating Fae, Liz, is we collect fascinating stories of people that have seen incredible things, and we discuss them. Basically, just get curious, get fascinated. What exactly is going on? Some of the themes that have popped up in the show are interdimensionality, the current scientific knowledge around quantum physics and how that may lend explanation to how like a light-based being can exist, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many things that we're already speculating on before you even know about the show that are right up Fascinating Fae alley. So thanks for that.
Very welcome.
Yeah, truly thanks for that. Well, so for the audience listening, I mean, we've had this beautiful pre-conversation that we're now kind of, bringing to somewhat of a close, only because out of respect for, your time, Liz, out of respect for the audience's time, I like to try to keep my episodes to around 2 hours if I can, and I'm sure we've already got 45 minutes of amazing conversation, which I'm going to include. So let me do my normal process of segue, if I can, if that's okay with you, and then we'll just kind of move forward around this orb topic, which is kind of why I want to bring you on the show in the first place.
Of course.
Cool. Well, so basically for the audience listening, we're here at Fascinating Fae to collect incredible stories, but we're not here to convince anybody of anything. And in particular tonight, I have been reaching out to Liz myself a lot. I've been bugging her for like weeks, I feel like, actually. Thanks for putting up with me. The reason why is because Liz, is it okay if I say your Instagram on the...
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Liz has an Instagram, Amazing Orbs, which in my humble opinion as the host of this show, again, my job as the host of this show is to try to bring forward what I think are credible eyewitnesses and other credible discussion worthy, evidence or otherwise, because evidence can be a tricky word, but you get my idea. I'm trying to actually bring on real stuff to get it as much out of the realm of like fantasy and folklore and into the realm of like, this is still going on. This may be better understood through science than magic, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason that I'm excited to talk with Liz is because her photographic collection of orbs is, in my opinion, one of the best on the internet. Also, you don't seem to be like out there hyping your stuff up like some sort of TikTok follower hungry person. Like from just this pre-conversation, you do strike me as a deeply intelligent, intuitive, and thoughtful person. And so when I looked at all these kind of orb websites or orb instas or whatever that I could find, yours has really stood out, both for the quality of the imagery and the presentation is very elegant and straightforward.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. That's really lovely.
I truly mean it. And, that's hard to find around this subject matter, is just like sober, curious, recalcitrant, but yet at the same time forward stuff, if that makes any sense. So everybody listening, head on over to Amazing Orbs, because you're going to get to see some of what we're about to talk about. And that's a really cool opportunity that doesn't often happen in the show. Because, a lot of times we weren't there when someone saw an ogre or a troll or whatever. And just to finish before I do bring you on and ask you this question to get going here, talk to Vicky, the woman I was mentioning. She did see like an 8-foot+ troll who does cohabit around her house. So I'm not sure how big this fellow out of the hedge was, but 8-foot+, no problem.
Yeah.
I saw a Sasquatch which was easily in the 11-foot mark range. in my roadside crossing. But so, they get pretty big, these guys. The Fae, the whatever you want to call them, the interdimensional, non-taxonomically classified interdimensional animals of Earth
Yes.
can be pretty big, just like the real ones. So Liz, let me ask you this first question to help structure this conversation as a normal Fascinating Fae episode.
Okay.
I want to know, first of all, if it's okay with you, when you first saw your first orb and when you decided to start taking pictures of them. If you can just bring me back to that moment of like, holy shit, orbs, I gotta take pictures of this. That would be really helpful. And what we like to do here on the show is not rush anybody. So you've got all the time in the world. Give us context. What were you doing? When did you see your first orb? Just kind of take us into how this Instagram was born, I guess is what I'm asking.
Okay. Well, I had just moved to the country and I have this sublime view over the Great Dividing Range, which is a huge mountain range that goes halfway across Australia, really. And every night I would get these spectacular sunsets. And I mean, I've lived in a few places in Australia, but I've never had a view to a sunset on a regular basis. So every afternoon I'd get so excited by colours and the different designs in the sky. I mean, it's like nature's artwork when you get a really good backdrop for sunsets and then it just performs. So night after night I'm outside with the camera. And then, much to my surprise, there's this time after the sun sets that there's a flare or a kickback of light that's even more intense, deeper colours. And I used to wait for that after a while, after I knew it was there, I used to wait for that. And then through this time, because it's now quite dark and yet the sun is still putting out these incredible colours, that's when I started to see orbs. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they were called. I just, looking through my sunset photos and then all the time through this very late sunset time, I'd start to get these round things consistently. Oh, now I'm really intrigued. So then the sunsets became to sort of be, after gigabytes of sunsets, they became to be less of a focus and the orbs became to be more of a focus. By this stage in my life, I had recently lost my mother. My father had passed earlier than that. And so I have this, being a medium of sorts, I have this connection with them both. And I could feel them around in those times. I could feel them with me. Not all of the time, but they have a presence, and I was aware of this presence. And I somehow felt that they were connected to these orbs. So I would say to them, if you are among these orbs that I'm capturing, stand out to me, do it one at a time. Let's have a week of mum and then a week of dad, or come together or something, but show me something separate. Anyway, this happened. I mean, my mum would show up as an orange orb and my dad would show up as a blue orb. And sometimes they would come together and sometimes they would come separately, but they were always consistent in their colours. And most of the other orbs I was getting were just white. Still not really knowing exactly what I'm dealing with here, so I'm researching like crazy on the internet, and I came across somebody who's been an absolute gem for my development in both orbs and mediumship, because she herself is an evidential medium full time. And I don't think she'll mind me mentioning her, but her name is Dr. Christina Rawls. And at the time, she had a website called Orb Magic, and she had all of these reference books on orbs, including one called the Orb Project, which is almost like a Bible for anybody that's interested in orbs. It's written by two scientific-minded people. One was a NASA employee and the other one's a professional photographer. And they did all sorts of scientific experiments with orbs in dustless rooms. They've replicated things time and time again, proving that these orbs are not just dust, because that's the first thing that everyone says, oh, it's just dust. I have got so many photos and so many experiences now, I can absolutely categorically assure you orbs are not just dust or water droplets or whatever else you want to throw at them. These things are beings of light. They're energy, as we all are. Even humans have a bioluminescence about them. It's just a lot fainter than an orb is. And orbs are also not just not just parents or people you know that have passed on to the next dimension. Orbs are animals, orbs are extraterrestrials, orbs are conglomerates of people. I mean, in some of the orbs I've seen, there are hundreds of faces in just one orb. Sometimes you can get a very, very clear animal face, like an echidna or a kangaroo. Being in Australia, I get these sorts of animal faces in the orbs quite frequently. But anyway, back to my research. So I contacted Dr. Christina Rawls and we got chatting, and as it turns out, we're now really good friends, and she's been helping me develop my mediumship as well, which has been wonderful to be able to communicate with the orbs. And from then, she was able also to confirm for me that my mum did in fact come across to me as an orange orb, and my dad did come to me as a blue orb. So I knew I wasn't just kidding myself or wishing them here, that was a genuine communication I had developed with them. And then I began travelling, as I do, around the country, and I became so excited to take pictures of orbs in other areas other than just my paddock. And it was very exciting to sort of get orbs by the ocean and then orbs in the mountains. And I used to think originally that the different locations would supply different orbs. And I was only partially correct about this because it's come to my attention through several medium friends now and other orb photographers that the orbs are actually connected to me or the person taking the photo. There's a young psychic medium who told me of a fabulous experiment of an orb photographer friend that he had, and she took them on a retreat, and they were all looking forward to taking orb photos with her because she had taken lots and lots of orb photos, and he was one of the people on this retreat. So you've got quite high vibrational, like-minded people going on a spiritual retreat basically to take orb photos. And so they go on this weekend and everyone took photos, which anyone can take photos of orbs, just for the record. And they came back and she was the only one that had the orbs in her photos, even though they had all been doing it and they were with her and they were taking the same scene. The orbs are connected to a person. So that fascinated me just on its own, which is what Christina was telling me also, but I just hadn't realised that it's our connection with spirit that allows the orbs to connect with us. Does that answer the question you asked me about?
It sure does, and it brings up so many more curiosity-inspired questions. That does answer my question, and it answers it in like a beautiful way. And honestly, one of my bigger surprises, I would say, about venturing into this pool, dipping my toe into the fairy pool, and then eventually I think I'm up to my waist now, might even be getting to the point where I can't touch the bottom, but anyway, one of my biggest surprises of venturing into this pool is the opportunity to connect with sober, articulate, thoughtful people who are truly perplexed and bringing forward insights that are not like super readily available to be found, like we're talking about. So one of the things that I'll do is I'll put this Dr. Christine, what is her name one more time, please?
Dr. Christina Rawls, Rawls.
I'll grab a link to her information and put them in the show notes for the listeners.
Yeah, I can also give you the Orb Project writers if you want that too, because that's actually a really important book if you want to say it's dust or something. I mean, these guys basically proved it isn't.
Well, that's actually a great thing to mention, and what was going to actually be my next sort of segue as I started to unpack what you had just told me.
Okay.
So please do send any reference links that you feel are relevant to what you've discussed, and then I'll add those to the show notes. So the dust thing is an important part of the orb discussion because it's where you have to start in the debunking process.
Yeah.
I can go right now and I can find literally thousands, and I like hate this stuff, of Ring cameras on some fucking paranormal Facebook page where some idiot is like, these are these fairies, and 900 people are like diving in. It's just your pet dust getting sucked up by your internal HVAC system, you know, and you can look at it and you can be like, yeah, that's what that is, right? You're like, yeah. Those aren't. Also, like, I don't know, I wear glasses. So, I mean, I know what it's like to have shit on your lens. Just from that, if you go to my Instagram, I'm a photographer of animals. Pretty decent, not great or anything, but I definitely know my way around a camera because I just love to be able to take pictures of animals. And so I know what it looks like when you got shit on your lens there too. How many great shots have I been ruined by not having cleaned my camera lens first, right? Dozens and dozens. And that's just part of life. But again, going back to what I was saying, your photos are not that. They're clearly not that. They could not be that degree of frequency of orb capture, that degree of color variance, size variance, detail variance, even shape variance. Because there's some wild looking shapes.
Oh, yes.
I want to get into that in a second. But tell me about this dustless room thing, because what I'm imagining, and I want you to tell me, but what I'm imagining is like I'm talking about, there's a person who's like, no, you said a NASA scientist and a professional photographer, I believe.
Yes, I think that's right.
Are both aware of the presence of orbs and are trying to debunk their own dust out of the equation like a good scientist would, basically trying to create a controlled experiment. What then did they uncover, if you can recall? And so, like, that's a really important point, just to kind of like why I'm asking this is because I don't want anyone listening to think that Liz's photos are dust. So let's just start there. I don't think they're dust.
Okay.
But I think both you and I know that we know what dust would be. Can we agree? Like, if you had photographed some dust, you would admit to that and know what it was?
Yes, absolutely. But dust in general is white. It's mainly small. In my orb photos, I've got some enormous orbs, obviously the size of a room.
You also have motion that is not dust motion.
Yes.
And that's something I'll get to because I've seen a fairy move and I've talked to others that have seen them move. Also, I mean, we're going to cover so much ground, but my very first guest, Ron, the very first person I ever talked to, does talk about similar things to what you're saying about how the orbs are a type of transportation, if you would.
Yeah.
They're like man, let's just stay focused. So do you remember what they figured out in their dustless rooms? Did they actually capture orb photos?
Yes, they did. They were able to capture orb photos in this dustless room.
Dustless rooms are real. That's where your electronic circuitry is designed and made.
Yes.
Like a Intel processor is made in a completely dustless facility, basically. So that is like a thing, especially for multiple scientific experiments that want to exclude any type of external ingress from a particle. Basically, needs to create a completely and there's a variety of ways to do it. You can flood a room with gases that suppress the presence of anything other than that gas, and then you can detect that there's nothing in there except for that gas. There's a whole bunch of ways they can do it. It's really interesting. So yeah, I don't think your photos are dust. I'm glad we covered that. And I'm glad you've got some kind of like external corresponding literature that you like, because what I'm trying to connect to and what I'm hearing is like you went through this process of like trying to also rationalize yourself out of what you thought was going on, only to uncover some pretty interesting knowledge, it sounds like, from other people who tried to do the same thing and were also unsuccessful at rationalizing it away.
Yeah.
I was unsuccessful for 4 years at rationalizing away my fairy encounter because of the sound and the bright and the speed. None of it made any sense. It still doesn't. So absent a logical explanation, like it was a hummingbird with, carrying a firefly in its mouth, which I even went there. I was like, could that have been? We don't have fireflies here, but, I even thought, like, could that have been?
It just shows you how far you're willing to wander from the facts that you actually get, to try and make sense of it in a third dimensional explanation almost. It shows how far you do. Your mind does go there. I mean, it's sort of like, can I get a piece of dust the size of a room? No, probably not.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Liz, we're on the same page. I've done enough of this, like, was it dust talk? We get each other. My next question is this. So when you say that the orbs can be animals, the orbs can be conglomerates of people.
Yeah.
Again, my only real frame of reference to person who's seen multiple orbs and knows what they are would be Ron, my first guest. A remarkable guest, by the way. You should listen to his episode sometime.
I will.
He started meditating in the 90s. He's a municipal works guy, not a fairy guy at all. Lo and behold, he wakes up one day to thousands of orbs in his room. And they start to connect to his fingertips, like docking onto his fingertips. And he later comes to understand that they were fae. They show up as little fairies eventually. And also incredibly illuminated blue hues and all sorts of colors. Like, it's literally like you have photos of what Ron is describing entering his room is how I feel. Intuitively, this is what I feel. And he says that they are basically like fairies are pure energy, is what he says.
Yes.
He then says that, like, they can appear as anything that you imagine. So going back to where we started, was that woman coming out of the river of Fae, were these birds? I think it's all possibly been Fae, a lot of this stuff going on around my house. Because they can appear as anything you can imagine. But he says that basically, if you can understand it this way, and this is Ron reflecting direct knowledge received from fairies themselves, from these orbs themselves that have docked on his fingers and communicated with him. And by the way, he goes through this incredible storytelling process of saying how at first he wasn't telepathic. So they would, like, move left to right, like, for no, and move up and down for, like, yes, when he asked questions and stuff like that.
Wonderful.
And so, but eventually he goes on to understand from them that basically this is what's going on. This is his retelling of what he learned from direct docking communication with orbs on his body, on his fingertips. He says that they are fairies, but like I just said a second ago, they can appear as anything you can imagine.
Yes.
And so when they are, in effect, taking it easy, like AKA not showing up as a bird or an owl or whatever, just basically taking it easy and being their pure energy selves, is when they are orbs.
Yes, I totally agree. And I see them frequently in my shoots.
Okay. So this is really valuable. And so he basically, sorry if I sound stumbly, and I usually don't in the shows, but some of the stuff that I've been trying to get my head around lately is pretty brainy. And so sometimes I'm just like, how do I say this right? And the brainy is the wrong word even. See, I stop there because I don't want to sound like some intellectual dick. It's just like this stuff messes with your head.
It does. It's heart language.
Yeah, you got to think about it slowly and carefully. And in this context of Fascinating Fae, you have to give it the right words so that it's done with respect and intelligence. That's all I'm really trying to do, right? So here's what I think, and I'm going to hand this off to you after I tell you what I think. So I think that light from the sun, from that big cosmic nuclear explosion just offshore, is a special kind of light. Meaning it's not like the light that comes out of your flashlight or your headlights of your car. It has a special characteristic to it that is in and of itself the origin of basically life. And I mean, you could get religious and philosophical here. The sun is the source of life. It is. So, you know, however you want to slice that up. But I'm actually talking about the photons of light themselves and the nature that quantum physics has discovered of light, that it is both a wavelength and a particle. So like I was trying to describe this on the show earlier, and I don't think I did a good job, so I'm just going to briefly try to describe it again. Waves are like a guy driving past your house with a big booming stereo, right? Your wall is not going to stop that wave. You're going to hear and feel that wave because waves can pass through stuff.
Yep.
Particles are like the head beams on that car driving past your house. If you have a wall and the guy's driving past your house, the light is not going to go through the wall and shine into your room through the wall, right? So light both has the capacity of sound to act like a wave and the capacity of particles of light to be like a physical thing that can be blocked, right? So it's both a wave and a particle, meaning it's a real object that like has physicality, but it's also a totally intangible object which can pass through stuff. It's both.
Yes.
It's actually both. And so when the light leaves the sun and hits Earth, starting the chain reaction of all life, what's to say that all life cannot just instantly revert back to light, which is what it started off as?
Yeah.
AKA go into orb form.
Yes.
And move around. Because in effect, what that would suggest, if my theory or hypothesis has any legs at all, is that we ourselves can do it, which maybe is how like a yogi is described as going from one mountaintop to another with his legs crossed. That the type of intuition possible, even as simple as I can feel someone looking at the back of my head, all the way to like, I know a loved one died, even though I'm 3,000 miles away and would have no idea that that just happened, is all a byproduct, all of it is a byproduct of the fact that we are a type of alive light.
Yes.
And that as a living type of light, we effectively are quantum capable, meaning we can both be a particle, like physical, and we can be a wavelength, non-physical, effectively. And when you get stuck against, well, how can that be? Well, just go back to what I just said. Light is both a particle and a wave, and everything that is alive comes from light at the end of the day. So that's what I think. I just think that maybe when you're photographing orbs, when the owl is showing up and landing on your shoulder, it's all a type of deeply interconnected reflection of the capability of this living light quantum soup thing that we're actually living in. I'm wondering what you think about that.
Well, I agree with you. I've always thought of it as energy as opposed to light. I mean, you're using the word light where I would ordinarily use the word energy. I believe everything here that is alive is an energy. And in terms of the human energy, when you die, you know, your body just basically ceases to function, but your soul or your essence of your being, your personal energy, if you like, goes on to another dimension. I mean, energy can't actually be stopped or can't be killed. It can't be defeated. Energy just changes form. That's what it does. It just it's limitless. And where you're saying light, I would probably use the word energy. But there's also the vibration thing. I mean, everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. Like a table probably has a fairly low vibration because it's solid, and if you can hit it and it's going to stay solid. But if you were to go to say, I don't know now, it was a really dumb example, but but something of a higher vibration, like a music note or something that's totally ethereal and very high pitched. You're not going to be able to destroy that like you would be able to hit the table. You can't tangibly hold it, is what I'm trying to say. That wasn't a very good analogy either. Sorry.
It was both of those were very good, in fact.
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk about this subject matter. It is. Yeah. If it's okay with you, and I never ever on this show like to be like Mr. Mansplainer.
Oh, go for it.
I don't even like to sometimes speculate, because I mean, I don't know. I just am a dude who saw a fairy. Like, I truly am not an expert. I just don't know. But like energy, we're saying the same thing when I say light and energy. We're saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, I thought so.
And also when we say vibration, we're also talking about the same thing. But I think that there is a nuance that I want to try to give voice to, because it's complementary to what we're saying. So light is both a wavelength and a particle, but it's coming out of that big nuclear explosion, which is the sun, which is like limitless energy. You can feel the heat and energy of it on your body, you know?
Yeah.
And energy, in a scientific definition perspective, is like, there's a podcast I listen to called Skeptoid by Brian Dunning.
Right.
It's a very good skeptical podcast. He can pretty much pick apart anything. And I've never heard him actually do a skeptoid on fairies, because I don't think he even thinks it's worth doing a skeptoid on. You know what I mean? But like, yeah. He'll pick apart anything. And one of the things that he picks apart is energy work. Because he says the word energy is specifically, if you open up the dictionary, a reference to potential force, basically. Meaning like a battery stores 1 volt of energy, or 2 or 3. It's a unit of measure of potential.
Okay.
Potential power. And he says, like, if I eat an apple, it gives me caloric energy. The caloric energy powers my body to go for a walk. That's what energy is.
Okay.
And so he debunks energy work by saying, he debunks energy work by bringing it back down to the definition of the word energy in the dictionary, which is that energy is what I'm talking about. This is me paraphrasing Brian Dunning's episode on energy work, right? Basically saying energy can't pass through something, because, you know, if you eat the apple, you get the caloric energy, or I can't give you the caloric energy of the apple through a handshake, is basically what he's saying, right?
Right.
So he's right in a literal sense that energy, can't be like transferred in the way that you and I are talking about at the top of the show, where I'm saying you can give energy work to a squirrel and it can feel it.
That's life force.
So I think we're saying the same thing when we say energy.
Yeah, I think so.
And I agree with you that I actually use the word energy all the time, but part of the show process of Fascinating Fae is to remain objective and to talk like we know about how to debunk ourselves. So that's why someone might say the word energy is the wrong word, Liz. Okay. And but that would be someone else, not me. I'm just saying that's how that might come up. That's the reason why I've taken to kind of saying light, because light gets the recognition within the science of the day of having that dual capacity of wavelength and particle. Furthermore, the quantum physics of the day suggests that a particle of light, for instance, when it hits a plant leaf, can be in infinite number of places at once, which is called quantum superpositioning, which is the idea that light, even though it's a physical particle, like I just said a second ago, a light beam from the car is not going to move through a solid wall. That physical particle of light, also, you could focus that light and make it cut a piece of steel, because the particles of light could become a laser, you know?
Yes.
That's how you know it's a particle. There's some actual particle there. You can't focus radio waves or a musical note to cut steel. That's
sure.
a wavelength that's more ethereal, like you're saying. So when I think about the source of light, it's from energy, which is a nuclear explosion, which is energy. That is potential energy, because one atom colliding with another has a potential energetic quotient to it. That, in fact, is exactly what you just started off saying, which is that energy can't be created or destroyed.
Yeah.
That's basic Albert Einstein for you, right? Yeah. Energy equals mass E equals mc squared, basically. I forget what is it, mass times, I'll have to look it up. But what he's saying there is that energy can't be created or destroyed, it can just change form.
And dimension.
Correct. And so what I think is going on, just to string this all together and agree with you, because I actually agree with you, but just to string it together in my own way, I guess, and ask what you think, is like the original nuclear explosion, the biggest Big Bang, whatever, you go all the way back, but let's just stick to the sun for a second. Our sun here in our solar system. That's a nuclear explosion. The source of which is actual energy. That energy is then becoming manifest as, among other things, light, heat, radiation, a whole bunch of stuff, but it's basically emanating out from the pure source of energy. That light contains, it's interesting because the light itself doesn't contain energy, but when it hits a plant, the plant photosynthesizes the light wavelength and turns it into energy. And it photosynthesizes the particle and it turns it into more plant, which is so trippy. And then, the energy in the plant can be transferred to us. We can eat it. The animals around us can eat it. And so even though we can't photosynthesize, we can actually go through a transmutation process of original nuclear explosion to light back to a caloric energy form into our bodies. It's like the light is moving and transforming through a multitude of phase states, a multitude of physical states, a multitude of energy states and potentials, all coming from that one original big source of of radiation and light and heat, which is the sun burning away. I really think that, just to connect this back to orbs and owls and everything we're talking about, I do think that, basically we are energy, like you're saying, but I think that we're actually light.
We're light, yes. Yeah, I do agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't see an object unless light is hitting it. So something doesn't exist unless light from the sun traveled to it and hit it. It truly doesn't exist in the sense that unless the photon interacts with that thing there, then it doesn't exist. So we're not only light, but we are living in a bath of light. So we're light in light.
Yes. Well, orbs are beings of light. I mean, they call themselves beings of light.
This is why they're possible. This is why I think they're possible. Because it just, the ecosystem, the multi-dimensional particles in superpositioning of light are basically what I'm saying is if light is coming from the sun and hitting a plant and going into superpositioning, that it's probably hitting everything and going into superpositioning, which is, there's your multiple dimensions, basically. And now, what we experience as consciousness starts to come into question. Well, what is that? Is that light aware of itself? What we think about as form starts to come into question. Was the fairy that I saw blistering through dimensional planes, or do dimensional planes just not exist? Are they just a byproduct of a veil in our mind? So many things come up. Let me hand it off because I've mused too much in your episode. You're the one photographing these orbs. So does this connect? Like going back to them being connected to you as spirit and only appearing on your film, would you go so far as to say then that the camera is also not really that real? It's just also a reflection of light in your hand.
Oh, I don't know. That sounds like it's above my pay grade.
Well, how do some people get them on camera and others don't, who are in a group? What do you think is going on there?
I think it's I think they're attracted to the vibration of the person. They're attracted to your whatever it is that we put off, whether it's our own bioluminescence or whether it's our own understanding of things, whether it's our higher self, or whether it's maybe, I mean, if you really want to get way out there, maybe it's a combination of experiences we've had in other lives, other dimensions, and they're always with you. It's very possible that there are other dimensions right here, right now. We're just not physically able to see them with our eyeballs. There are orbs that I have seen without the camera that have flashed across the room. You know, I can see them with just my naked eye, as I have with fairies as well. They're tiny little sparkly things that I can see sometimes. When you focus on trees and plants and flowers and animals, if you can do it, there is a silvery aura around pretty well everything that's living, so to speak, anything that's got life in it, like that life force. So coming back to your light thing, you know, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I would account for auras, because auras are kind of light radiance in a sense.
Yeah, and yes, and I think that's probably what when you get a feel for people, you know, like you vibe with somebody. I mean, that's the saying, but I mean, there's a truth to that. You actually have a resonance between certain people and not others. I mean, there are some people you just think, oh no, I don't understand. I don't want to go there. You know, it's a vibrational reaction or an auric reaction, perhaps, to the other person's energy or life force that they're giving off.
Going back to your table versus musical note thing,
yeah,
it's really actually a pretty profound analogy, because to take it a length further, it's like everything we're talking about tonight is so beautiful and interesting and poignant and counter to the narrative of like, let's drop some bombs on some people we're fucking angry at right now.
yeah.
It's like we live in a world that can have that table as our focus, aka like the physical stuff that draws us into war, that draws us into these conflicts and misuse of physical things. Or we can have musical notes, which is like truly untouchable but reaches the soul and can heal and fix. And
yes,
I truly wonder sometimes if there's actually, like, I know like in conspiracy theory culture, a lot of people like to talk about this narrative like, oh, the government's against the populace, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that what you and I are talking about, like, hey, human existence is extremely spiritual and maybe like everything is interconnected, would be like very, very threatening to people that are currently putting explosive ordinances together at Lockheed Martin, you know, really threatening. Like, I actually think the scariest thing to the militaries of the world is a bunch of people that love and care about one another and don't want to fucking fight and kill. That's what scares them the most.
Yeah.
That's what scares them the most. And so I don't actually know how we have ended up in such calamity as a human species with each other and with our kin on this planet, because it's not my nature. It's not your nature. I can hear it in both of our voices. We would probably, if we were in charge, never have started any wars for any reason. I mean, even if, like, I've had people do some extremely fucked up shit to me that made me want to kill them, but I didn't. You know, you got to learn to turn the other cheek, et cetera, et cetera. Life is always pushing those lessons forward, but how did we actually get to a point where we live in this world that we live in when the stuff that you and I are talking about is also true is very confusing to me.
Well, it's gone awry. You see, I mean, I'm no philosopher on this really, but if you think about the sorts of things we're talking about, which are spiritual and of a high vibration to, you know, the average war or let's how let's sort of develop a bomb that's going to make as much mess as possible. All of it's come from originally some sort of a religious or boundary-seeking sort of greed-based background. I mean, the religion itself, and this is a whole other podcast, of course, is very damaging to our spirituality, which is that's just a crazy statement, but it's actually true. I mean, people get caught up in the religious beliefs and their God is not your God, and we're going to fight you to the death, and that's what a lot of conflict throughout the ages has been born of. And yet at the heart of it, it's the wanting of the knowledge of this higher power, we're not alone, we're not just random meat sacks wandering around the planet for fun. I mean, we are put here for a reason, and we do have a higher purpose. Not everyone finds it, and most of us are still floundering, finding the best things that we can do with our time here. But that's where it's come from, I think. I mean, that's where it's started way back in the Dark Ages, like the Protestants and Eastern religions, and they're all based around beliefs.
I think you're right. I think there was a claim or an attempt to claim the power that's around us, and basically, at the exclusion of others, which is the definition of greed, right? When you want something, but you don't want it for other people. One of the bigger lessons I learned is that what you want for others is what you want for yourself.
Yeah.
And not the other way around. It's really hard to do it and I'm still working on it. But when I am critical and objective about my own emotional health and my own, am I mad at something? I just really can come back to that one truth, which is that what I want for other people is what I want for myself. So if I want to be happy and successful, then that means I want other people to be happy and successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Because we are all connected. So what you want for yourself is...
Bingo, right? And where it gets fucked up is that when you start to think, I want to be happy and successful, I don't fucking care what other people have or don't have. I want to be happy and successful, and I'm going to go get that for me. So when you want something for yourself is where it gets fucked up.
Yeah.
And when you can heal it by just doing this little trick I'm talking about, right? Which is, if you want to be happy and successful, then what it means is you want other people to be happy and successful. Go invest in that and watch what happens to your own happiness and success. Every single time I leveled up or got myself right, despite all the stuff I was up against, it was basically, when I analyzed it afterwards, it was through that trick of just realizing you're not, it starts with you. It starts with what I'm saying. What you want for others is what you want for yourself, basically. Yeah. Don't expect to like a good example I'll give to the men listening, right, is do you want girls to be really interested in you and super attentive and all this stuff that guys wish? Well, are you doing that for them? You know what I mean? Do you just expect that to be delivered to you as a guy, or are you actually really putting out as much as you hope to get back? Really ask yourself. And then are the big and small societal issues really just reflections of us trying to keep for ourselves what we really should be trying to give to others? And that trick of greed is a nasty one. And somewhere along the line, something got into us, a ruse. I feel like it's a ruse, because I feel like human nature left to its own devices is much more light-filled, loving, magical, curious. We can think about all the art we can make, all the music we can make.
Yeah, creativity is a big answer to a lot of it, I think.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Because where do you put that energy of anger when you're traumatized is a big question. And unfortunately, most of what is offered in, like, say, North American society, which is where I'm living through my traumas, is that you get to just pack it into yourself. And then if that's too much, well, too bad, pal. Here's some suppressants, you know, keep that shit in. And if that don't work for you, well, too bad, you know, you're basically gonna die of a cancer or die of some sort of internally, you know, when you focus, like we're saying, energy, you know, when you focus bad energy back in, well, that's what happens. And I can see, because I've done it myself, what I can see the bad energy focused back in on many, many, many people around me. Just even just casually, like in the grocery store or whatever. I'm like, fuck, I want to separate that guy from those 5 fucking problems I can see just in his grocery cart, you know? And then like also like what that must mean about what he's doing with his time, like how much TV he's watching, how much this, like, it just, I can see it because I was that. And getting away from it means accepting what you and I are talking about on some weird level, like breaking free of all religious dogma is an extremely important part of becoming healthy. It really just is. This is my take. Like, not to say you can't be a healthy, loving Christian. They're out there. You could definitely find healthy, loving Muslims and stuff. But actually, you know, I don't really think that the rule book is in a book. And I really don't think it's in a bunch of buildings. And it's certainly not in a bunch of rules and dogmatic practices, because that stuff is suppressive. Like those pills I'm talking about, those are just pharmaceutical versions of what was being put into the brains of the populace, like you're talking about, through those ancient religious practices.
Yeah.
You know, it's a control mechanism, all of it. And, you know, just to bring it full circle and hand it off here, Liz, I didn't go down this road at all with my thinking until I saw a fairy. It was life-changing for me. I feel like for you, you're starting to take photographs of sunsets and then all of a sudden seeing these orbs. Now prior to that, it does sound like you had a lot of kind of what might some people might call woo stuff going on, but
I did, yeah.
Even so, I can still detect that rationale, that rationalization tendency, you know, that both of us are adding to our woo-woo talk here. Because I don't know that any of this stuff is real, but it feels a lot closer to what my experience of truth is than what, say, a conversation I had with an Anglican minister gave me.
Well, one of the things, just to, as you say, bring it back to the topic, one of the things that's been fascinating for me is to be able to communicate with the orbs. I mean, it's one thing to take photos, and I will continue to do that because they're actually really wonderful to spend time with. But I've been able to communicate with them, as have several other mediums. There's quite a few people that have been able to connect with them and get messages from them. I mean, all those things they're very real, you know, and it's very hope-filled to be able to think that these things exist and they want to communicate with us. They actually enjoy it. They're fun. They've got a sense of humour, which is just, it's fabulous. I have this big blue orb, which I've had from the beginning of time. The one that isn't actually my dad, I don't think, but he only ever shows his tiny part of his bottom half of this huge blue orb. And he'll come into a photo and I'll just get that bottom part. And it used to be really frustrating seeing it because all I could get was the same bit again and again and again. It's like, oh, come on. I mean, like, I know you're there. I can see you there. You're a great big blue orb. You'd look fantastic if I could get all of you. But not for weeks and weeks, just got this tiny, tiny bottom slither of this orb. And finally I said, okay, I get it. I'm not even going to ask anymore. I just think it's funny, and I'd laugh whenever I'd get this photo again and again. I'd just laugh, and as soon as I gave into it and just enjoyed it, I got this full photo of this great big, beautiful, big blue orb in all of its glory. The entire, and it was just playing, and it's just one of like a lot of different stories I've got where the orbs are really like fairies. They're really almost mischievous in their humour. They enjoy it. It's light. It's it's this high vibrational music note stuff. It's, it lifts everybody. I mean, they're one of the wives of the writers of the Orb Project is a healer, and she uses orbs for healing. I also have had a healing experience with orbs. One time when I was not feeling very well, I was out taking photos anyway, and during my shoot, I was surrounded by this white cloud of orbs, like completely dense, could not see out of this cloud of orbs. And I'm still taking photos, even though it looks like being in a white snowstorm, except I'm standing in the middle of my driveway in the middle of summer. There is no snow, no rain, nothing. And my first reaction was, this is not normal. Should I be doing something else here? And then my dad kind of stepped in, and the big blue orb came in right in front of me as if to say, it's fine, just relax. And so I did. And they just swirled around me, and it was fantastic. I've got photos of all of it. I went back inside and thought, hey, I don't have any of the symptoms I had when I went out before. I feel completely healed, and I'm sure it was this moment with these beautiful light energies that they just lifted me, and they do regularly lift me. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a truly wonderful thing.
I'm glad we're talking about the healing capacity of this connection with orbs or the Fae and their humor as well, because both are things that I've experienced.
Yes.
When I saw my fairy, I was so emotionally elated.
Yes.
I've never really experienced anything quite like it. And it hit me so suddenly and powerfully. It was part of the presence of this thing, for sure.
It's like a big natural high. It's really hard to come down from. I take most of my photos at night, and I come in sometimes, it's like, well, it's 2 a.m. You really should go to bed. Yeah, right. That's going to happen. How do you come down from something as absolutely fantastic as all of that,
It is all of that and a bag of chips, as the Brits would say. Yeah. I asked Ron about it, and he said, fairies are pure energy, and he says they impart a type of unconditional loving energy to you.
Yes.
Which is so powerful to think of entities of unconditional love and light that exist around us that we can talk to and access.
And they enjoy it.
They're highly sophisticated.
Yes.
I do believe that the Fae and these energy type of beings, these non-taxonomically described light-based energy animals that are around us, right, they belong in the taxonomy next to elephants and zebras. It's just like, here's a blue orb Fae, and it has these qualities. It'll eventually get there, I'm sure of it.
Yes.
Those entities know your heart.
They do.
I've said this a number of times on the show. The Fae know your heart. And orbs would appear to be part of this lexicon of Fae type representations of energy or interdimensional or light. Like, it's so hard to really pin the tail on this donkey because I'm truly blindfolded and spun in 5 circles. I'm a kid at a 7-year-old's birthday party, truly trying to pin a tail on the donkey with this stuff. But I do feel like I'm getting closer. And tonight's conversation with you is really helpful because, it does really, I think, sing the same song throughout all the Fascinating Fae, which is that, like, there's a lot more going on that is not readily available on the evening news, truly,
Yeah.
And that's a big shame because the knowledge that we're talking about is largely, and I do mean largely, a positive subset of knowledge to add to your brain,
Yes.
This isn't dark magic we're talking about. This isn't like
nope,
ooky spooky, scare the shit out of you, freaky paranormal. This is
uplifting.
Yes. Yeah, it is uplifting.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it's mind bending, which is the definition of fascinating, because it's like the high that you get is twofold here. You get the high we're talking about.
Yeah.
I guess this is what I'm trying to say. You get the high we're talking about, which is the emotional high. The whoa, that's so, like, it's truly a type of elation.
Yes.
But then you also get the mind high of like, whoa, what's real? What's going on? Can I just go orb form too? Like that kangaroo orb? Like, can I do it? Why can't I do it? It's so many. And then what I hit when I say, why can't I do it, is immediately I'm like, the church, the fucking military, the medicines. The reason we all are not doing basically like what yogis do, which is go into orb form and go from one hilltop to another with their mind. The reason that all of us en masse, I mean, I'm talking to every person listening and everyone else around you see at 7-Eleven. The reason we're all not doing it would appear to be a total architecture of suppression against us by a massive cabal of societal forces to stop it from happening. Because at one point, I think we all could, and I think it meant there was no control, there was no greed, because it was all just light and vibration and energy. And I do think that like most of the physical world stuff is a byproduct of some sort of evil spell keeping us from existing in our true light form. This is really what I'm coming down to at the end of the day with this show.
That's why you see monasteries built on the top of a hill, away from everything and everybody else. They keep their spiritual world clean and clear of. It's a thought, you know. It's a thought that you've got to actually protect. If you think like these people, as you say, you know, in church and state and wars and armies and so on. If you think like that, then that's where you spend your energy. That's what you're spending your life force on. If you, it's going to sound a bit whacked, but if you spend your time with the orbs, or you spend your time thinking about fairies, or you spend your time creating and doing the most beautiful artworks, spend your time in nature, if you're photographing nature or animals, you're of a higher mindset all of the time, or most of the time. Because you're doing that, that's what your focus is. That's where you're pushing your energy. That's what you're concentrating on. That's a big deal. And that's healthier. That's way healthier.
Also, being able to do that is courageous.
It's a gift.
Yeah, it's a privilege in many circumstances to even have that room in your day to think about it.
That's true.
I mean, I'm sure there's listeners are driving a truck right now who listen to this show, you know, and would love nothing more than to be in the woods taking pictures of slugs and orbs, you know. So acknowledging our privilege aside, I do say this to people who listen to the show as well. You do have personal responsibility here. I lived all sorts of fucking fucked up traumas in my life, and it took me a long time to recognize that even though those accidents that I had where I was, you know, at the end of the day in the courtroom, the judge said, this was not your fault. It was that guy's fault. Here's some money. And I could walk out of there saying, yeah, I was a victim, right? That was random. I was a victim.
Yeah.
Actually, all of my little choices in my life led me to that intersection where I got hit. It was my fault. Even though I can look to just about every one of my major traumas as actually not my fault. I mean, I can point to the judgments. I can point to the facts to show an objective person, this was not my fault. I'm a victim here. That is not the truth that I've actually come to understand. So for everybody listening that feels like Liz and I talking about how to get into higher vibration is not honoring where you're at, I've been where you're at. I have been on opioids, on benzodiazepines, with an insurance company up my ass, with doctors up my fucking, down my throat, with my soul stripped away from me, lost all my relationships, in physical pain, unable to move. And it was acknowledging that it was my own fault, even though I'm saying, like I could tell you back then, I was angry at everybody whose fault I thought it was. You can eventually get to the place where Liz and I are talking about, where you are doing these things everyone can. Every soldier listening, every person who's hurt or killed another as part of their job. I mean, it truly can become a collective choice and responsibility, but it does actually come down to the individual person making peace with what we're talking about here to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. This is like something that I for myself anyway, Liz, a really hard one to be able to think these thoughts about fairies and orbs at all.
Yeah.
And make this, what my life is about. So I just wanted to say that because, I do have empathy for everybody who can, because yes. I've listened to uplifting talk at times during my recovery and literally fucking thrown my phone across the room and said, like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about your happy relationship that saved you. Like, where's yes. mine? Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So angry, replace that today. Like, I have maybe the most intense love of my life happening. And like, I'm hosting a really popular podcast about fairies. And like, I never thought I would be here at all. And it's okay with me. It's fine. It's truly fine. It's serving me better than any of the other stuff that we've yeah. gone on this journey of discussion about here tonight. And so I think it is true. And I don't think it sounds whack at all, as you say. I truly think that you do get an energetic high from contact with interdimensionals.
Yes.
And I think that it's partially because it's a reminder of our true selves. And when you feel like yourself, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Well, as a traumatized person, I'm always like not right. I'm fucking pissed off. I'm upset. I want to smoke a joint and calm down. And it takes a lot to unwind me because of all the stuff I've been through. And I realize what is actually the thing I'm trying to feel like is I'm just trying to feel like myself again.
Yes.
Which is, and then when I saw that fairy, it wasn't just feeling like myself, it was feeling like my true self with an exclamation point all in caps.
It's not lost on me that your fairy was purple either, just for the record.
Tell me why.
Because purple is the highest vibrational color of healing.
Huh.
I get purple orbs from time to time, and I have one of my guides is a healer, and she always comes to me as not always a purple orb, but she comes to me as the color purple, and I know when she's around too. But yeah, purple is a really high vibrational healing frequency. I think it's related to your crown chakra. So it's also part of your true self, your true identity, your sovereignty. So it's not lost on me that you had a purple fairy.
It's been a really empowering event seeing that fairy.
Yeah.
And one that has because a moment ago I was talking about how I had to take personal responsibility. And part of that has been disassociating myself from all these negative choices I was making. I was eating meat. I was eating sugar. I was watching violent entertainment. I was watching porn. I was doing all the stuff that 95% of people do. Men especially.
They don't question it. Yeah.
It's what's on tap.
Yeah.
I'm sober. I don't drink alcohol. That's not always been the case. I didn't, I used to smoke tobacco. Not always. I don't anymore. To kind of tie it together with what we're talking about, it wasn't until that series of freedoms from those trappings were hard won and fought through that I saw that fairy.
Yeah.
And you don't listen to the show, but I mean, just for some further context to reflect back to you what you're saying about that purple light and it being no surprise to you. Mm-hmm. If I could describe the moment aboard that boat with that person, it was truly one of the happiest moments of my life at that point.
Wonderful.
It was a reflection of a total change of my financial position. I had been in extreme poverty my entire adult life. I opened cannabis dispensaries against the law and became a multimillionaire doing it through plant medicine. Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, I had nearly died and saw all these accidents and was basically a half-dead skeleton of opioid addiction and benzodiazepine addiction. Had been in 7 major car accidents. And when I saw my fairy, it had been an extremely long process of, because I started my cannabis dispensaries and got clean all together, right? Like I stopped drinking, I stopped using opioids, I just kept meeting more and more people at my counter who were just like me. Like everyone, like it was every man, woman in the city, it felt like. And it literally went through this huge process of understanding. And now I understand that 1 in 4 people are permanently disabled. 1 in 2 are struggling with a degree of pain that makes it difficult to care for themselves on a daily basis. That's not right. And that's a byproduct of a society physically against you as well as emotionally and mentally against you, like we're talking about. This society is packing everyone into fucking machines, cars, sitting them at computers. It's a you don't live in a community, you live in an economy. That's the difference. You're not in a community, you're in an economy, fighting for money, fighting for mortgage payments, fighting for car payments, fighting for space, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's really not.
No, it's not natural.
It's a garden. Look at the undisturbed spaces. They're full of abundance. They're just oozing all kinds of life and abundance and food and variance. And, we seem, very confused about what our true nature is and what we should be doing, but basically just to kind of finish and I do really want to appreciate a few things about you before I move on. First of all, beautiful like temperament and pace to this discussion, which I really appreciate. I just think that's just who you are. You're just chill like that. Yeah. And just really like open. Like a lot of people who, for instance, photograph orbs and stuff, Liz, like are hard to get on the show, wouldn't necessarily want to share their pictures and stuff because it does get a lot of ridicule. It can bring about pretty hateful, threatening dialogue even. I have some of like my guests who have really amazing video of fairies. When they post them, people are just like vile, basically. And I think that straight white male culture is afraid of energy beings that know their heart. That's what I really think. And when you're afraid of something, you lash out, which is what many of my guests have experienced. So it is refreshing to be able to hear from you in this plain and open way. And I do want to appreciate that about you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean it. Anyone listening, I think, can hear that and would probably feel the same way. So, I just say things sometimes not just for myself, but I do often try to say things for the audience as well. So just to kind of wrap up, and again, it's mostly just out of respect for the audience's time and your time. I could talk to you all day, I feel like.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you just a few final questions to wrap up the discussion. Again, like I truly could ask you 5 to 7 hours of questions about orbs, how you get them, stuff like that.
We'll do a part 2. Do a part 2 sometime.
I recently did a 2-part episode, and I'm starting to like the idea more and more because I don't want to rush through these conversations with people. It's too important.
Yeah.
Here's some of the things I wanted to ask that are just whirring around in my mind in the background here as I try to stay focused. Because we've covered a lot of ground, and it gets me kind of excited, like you're talking about. Just this conversation is a mini hit of that energy we're talking about,
Yeah.
I have this episode 19, Cross Country Fairy Forum, with Bonnie and Therese. And when you're talking about how so let me just go back and collect my thoughts so I can ask you this question appropriately. You mentioned earlier that the group was together, but only one person seemed to capture the imagery.
Yeah.
You've talked about how you were thinking, maybe I'll get different orbs when I go different places, but learned later that much of the orb activity is associated with you, which then I guess, if we're following the logic of the group, scenario then would suggest that you are the one who is getting the images more than anything.
Well, the way I got to that, I should probably just put that in. The way I got to that is that I have several orbs that are identical from shoot to shoot. I mean, I have like a posse that I always see. That's how I know that they're connected to me personally.
There's the red orb. I'm referring to my stuff where I've just seen your Insta here. But I mean, there's the red orb, which is totally fascinating to me.
Yes. The red orb's really incredible and hard to see. Hard to see even. Yeah. But it's always large. It's a big love. It's the presence that some of these orbs have is just like knock you on your ear in terms of, the hit, as you say. Sometimes I just almost burst into tears with the overwhelming sense of love and peace and joy that these things just deliver. It's like, whoa,
That's accurate. If you weren't seeing them on cameras, you would think that you're just having a religious, ecstatic experience.
Yeah.
Because you get hit with something overwhelmingly ecstatic.
Yes. And it is. It's like a wash over you. That's like, yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps right now. It almost feels like it's like an interdimensional wind entering you, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a touch of the divine, if you want to call it that. It's certainly not something you get going into your 7-Eleven, put it that way. It's really, really the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's not on tap in the Slurpee machine. It's not on tap in the Slurpee machine. But it is on tap in the Slurpee machine of the soul. So everybody, to your inner Slurpee machine of the soul, head yourself there and get a nice tall drink.
Drink up.
Awesome. Okay, but here's what I wanted to ask.
Yes, sorry, carry on.
No, this is great. This is par for the course for a normal Fascinating Fae episode. We're in familiar territory here. It's all good. Bonnie and Therese are doing this interesting thing where Therese is going to a park in her home, like near her house, on a different side of the country than Bonnie. And she's holding a fairy forum with the fairies that live in this park. And she's going and she's basically like talking to what would, to an objective observer appear to be no one. But she's got her phone out and she's recording what she's saying and quote unquote the answers, which she can't hear because she is not clairaudient. But she definitely knows that there are fairies there because her friend Bonnie is clairaudient. But also Bonnie is clairaudient specifically with a fairy that lives with Bonnie. And so when Therese holds the cross-country fairy forum and sends the recording back over to Bonnie, Bonnie will play it for her house fae that lives with her. And her house fae will hear what the other fae are saying and fill in for Therese and Bonnie the answers.
That's brilliant. That's so good.
It's really interesting. And then part of this process was Bonnie deciding to see if she could get photographic pictures of the fae that live there, and also seeing if Therese could start to get photographic pictures. Now, Therese not able to see or hear fairies at all, but all of a sudden, to her fucking surprise, is getting them on camera. And Bonnie as well. And then I'm going to connect the dots here to ask this question, and it's a fairly dotty connection series, so sorry for that. So on the one hand, there's like what would appear to basically be blank audio, but then in the hands of the right pair, which is a fairy and a person who can hear a fairy, what is blank audio is actually full of dialogue in quorum. That's really interesting. And so Bonnie starts to decide, like, well, can I get photographic evidence? Actually, I'm kind of mangling the story. I think the photographic evidence and her original conversation, Bonnie, with her house fae were kind of coinciding. But then later, Therese was able to capture photos who previously had never been able to capture photos or had even tried. But here's where I'm going with this, is that at one point, Bonnie was like talking to her fairy, and it lives with her. And she's like, I would like to see you. And I've never really seen you on camera before. Can I see you? You know? And so Bonnie heard from her fairy, go ahead and come take a picture of this plant and I'll show myself to you. So Bonnie goes and takes a picture of this plant, and she goes in and she looks at the picture of the plant, and it's basically just a picture of the plant, right?
Yeah.
And this is very interesting what I'm about to say here for you, I think, potentially. And she's kind of disappointed because she's like, well, this is just a picture of the plant.
I can only see a plant, yeah.
And she later is sort of now talking with her house fairy again. I think the house fairy's name is Susan. I'm trying to remember, and I've done 30 episodes of talking with people, so forgive me, audience, if I have that wrong. But she's saying to Susan, I'm a little upset. Like, I took this picture like you said, and I don't see you there. And she hears Susan say, oh, look again. And I have this photo on my website for the audience listening. It's on the show notes for the Bonnie and Therese episode 19. She looks again, and there is a family portrait. Like, it's a picture of 3 fairies in a frame resting on this leaf. And it's nothing else. Like, I've tried to look at it. I'm like, is that a smudge? Is it what the and it's clearly like an interdimensional shot of the same type of quality of some of your orbs with faces and stuff like that. Like, it's there. Yeah. You can definitely see it.
Yeah,
and it's 3 side by side. Like, you can see this woman's got brown hair, and Bonnie learns this is a family portrait of Susan and her kids.
No.
And what's really interesting is that Bonnie is clearly telling me, this was not here, James. I looked at this picture. It was just a picture of a leaf. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Later, I get told, no, go look again. And I look, and there's a superimposed on a digital file in my phone. There is now a photo of the Fae added after the fact. Now, I talked with the woman Linda months earlier for episode 7 called Linda Not Lying. And Linda captured an amazing video of a fairy on her phone. And she was blown away by it, so much so that she went inside and was taking screenshots of it, was sending screenshots of it to her husband, etc. Like, and she happened upon this video of a fairy when she was taking pictures of the sun going down in her backyard of her new home. Right. Sound familiar to anybody?
Yeah.
And she was like amazed that she had this. This was a precious video to her.
Yeah.
She also, like, talking with Linda, you can tell this is like a woman who's got, like, like, not just thumbtacks in that drawer. Her thumbtacks are in a Ziploc bag labeled thumbtacks. You know what I'm saying? This is This is Linda. So she's like, I know I saved that. I know which folder I saved it in. I was going to show it to my husband when he got home. She goes to get all that video content. It's gone. Disappeared. Gone. I have had multiple instances of audio I know I've recorded because I can see it laying down. Gone. It critically around information around the Fae being described by guests and stuff like that, just automatically disappeared. I've had weird stuff happen with my phone starting to play music out of nowhere, specifically playing a song called The Gnome by Pink Floyd when I was editing an episode about gnomes. All this stuff is so trippy, and including, not limited to the least of which, the Bonnie and Therese superimposing of a photo. So just to kind of recap, I've got one woman taking a photo of a fairy and then the fairy deleting it on her. I've got another woman taking a photo of nothing, and then the fairy superimposing family portrait of themselves onto digital files after the fact.
So cool.
And you've got this insight around the orbs being visible to some film and not others. What do you think is going on there? Do you think that this is, I know you said it's above your pay grade, but I just, you're a person getting orb photos, and I'm going to tell the audience, I tried. I thought, let me see. It's not working for me, in part because of my mobility issues, I'm sure. But what do you think, Liz? Do you think that they can interface with your digital camera to the extent where they're basically showing up versus like an identical digital camera in the hands of a person next to you, taking the same shot at the same angle, but it's not showing up on theirs? How is that possible? No wrong answers or anything. I'm just curious how you think that's possible.
I can even twist that just a little bit further and tell you like you need more confusion with this, but I actually wore out a camera orbing. I just took so many photos the thing fell apart. So that's fine. I'll just get another camera when I can find something that's good for orb photos. So about 2-3 weeks went by because I had to do some research as to what camera I wanted next. And then I got this new camera, which was better than the last one, had double the megapixels. I thought, this is going to be fabulous. Had a built-in flash, like everything was just lining up. So excited to get this new camera. Take it out, nothing. What do you mean nothing? I always get orb photos. No, not a thing. Nothing. For about 2 to 3 weeks, every single night, back out with the new camera. Okay, tonight's it. Nothing. Oh, what have I done? Don't tell me that all the orbs I've got were based on just the camera I had. Was it some glitch with the camera? It can't be true. Like, I did. I killed it. So then it took me about 2 or 3 weeks before I could get another camera. And so I have this new camera, which is double the megapixels to the last one. I thought, this is going to be wonderful. I'll be able to get more detail and so on. But for 2 weeks or so, I could not get one orb photo, which really shook me up because I thought, well, maybe it was a glitch with the first camera. Maybe I could only get orbs on that. That doesn't make sense. Maybe it was just dust, like all these things that start going through your head. And then, but I didn't stop. I still went out every single night. I said, I've got to show them that I'm serious here. And so I still went out every night, even though I got absolutely nothing. And then one night, I got this enormous white orb, huge, really detailed, like to the point where I could see like rings in it and symbols. And when I first saw it happen, it was so bright and so large. I thought something had gone wrong with the new camera. I thought, oh, that was really odd. And I looked on the screen, and there was this massive orb, and I've never had seen anything like it before. Oh, this is weird. This is so weird. So I took some more photos, and there it was again and again and again. So this white orb was the only thing I had seen in weeks of taking orb photos after losing the first camera. This is just really bizarre. And then again and again and again, I'd get this same one white orb. So I came in that night very happy that I'd got an orb back because I thought I'd lost them all. And I'm lying in bed, and I said, you're special. You've come to me for a reason, this big white orb. This is an event. So can you give me a name? Who are you? What's going on with you guys? Why have I got none? Just tell me something. Give me a name. Give me a name. So again and again. And so I'm lying in bed, and I hear this, Pharaoh. Whoa. I mean, there's no one in the room with me. It was a male voice, and it said Pharaoh, really fast, really close to my face. And then it was gone. So I quickly sat up, wrote it down, Pharaoh. That's the name. That's its name. It had a name. Okay, good. So the next night I went out and just double checking and checking all these things as you do. I would like to speak to Pharaoh, please. Is this true? Did I hear that correctly? Is your name Pharaoh? Are you the big white orb that showed to me after not having any orbs for a while? Boom, big white orb, big centre, absolute dead centre of the frame. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Thank you very, very much. And I'll take a few more orb photos. Can I do this again? Can I repeat this? Pharaoh, could you come back to me again? Please, can you show yourself to me? If you are Pharaoh, if your name is Pharaoh, can you show me? Boom, straight again. Back in the middle, centre of the frame. There's no mucking around with this. He wasn't, he was very, very definite and very, very strong, very bright, very spherical, perfect sort of sphere. So now I consider, and this is like now a few years ago, I call Pharaoh my orb guide. And when I can't see anything, or if I'm in a new place, I always talk to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, can you tell the orbs of the area to come and show themselves if they would like to? I'd like to share them with the world, and I'll try and present them in the best way I possibly can. And sure enough, bang, in the middle of the photo is this big bright white orb, and off it comes with other orbs as well. But I always know Pharaoh. And the fact that he gave me a name was just mind-blowing to me. But to answer your question, if they can take a while to learn cameras. Like I swapped cameras, and they can take a while to adjust to a new electronic tool, basically. So there is an adjustment period that they learn. And I've since then got another camera, and it took them a while to be able to show themselves well on that too. So they learn. I mean, they're intelligent, these things, and they actually really want to be seen a lot of the time. And so they learn to show themselves through these tools that we give them, whatever they are.
They're highly sophisticated. I agree with that. And the gnome song that I'm referring to, it goes like this. It goes, basically it talks about a gnome named Grimble Grumble. By the way, when I was referring to the song starting to play out of nowhere, it did start to play out of nowhere and was really confusing because it was like I had just been working on this show about a woman who videotapes Fae, who had her wedding ring missing for 3 years, and then asked, I just really would like some help getting this wedding ring back. And then an hour later came out onto her deck to find it on her deck. And I basically was like, in my head, I'm like, this is a gnome that did that. It took the ring in the first place because they like gold. And then when it realized she wanted it back, it gave it back to her. Was scenario 1. Scenario 2 was it took the ring to give it back to her. Like it was the phase 1 of a 2-part lesson. Yeah. It was like, it's like, I'll give it back to you when you finally believe. And then you'll be confirmed, was basically how I took it. And she is also like one of the few people who has amazing video of Fae that I would put on the same level of your orb photos. And by the way, like I do think that they are letting you photograph them, like you're saying.
Yeah.
As opposed to another person. I think that because I just talked about for 15 minutes, can tell you that they turfed their images from Linda and they superimposed their images on Bonnie. So they're definitely letting you capture them. I think you're also totally accurate of saying they take time to learn devices.
Yeah.
And here's what I think to answer the question I asked you, and you gave an amazing twist there about how like, you know, you switched devices and that was an objective learning experience because you thought maybe it was just the old camera was messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been the exact same way. I've been right there with you, you know? And then when you realize, no, there's actually more going on, the way you've described it was really beautiful, much like the way that you're showcasing these orb photos. Again, Amazing Orbs is the Instagram. I was really wondering who was going to be behind that. Like, you know, because I haven't heard your voice up until today. And there's not really any information about you. I'm like, is this a young person? Is this a guy? Like, I didn't know. It's just, so I'm pleasantly surprised to learn it's you, but not surprised at all, if that makes any sense at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I just tried not to make it about me. I'm trying to showcase them. They're so amazing, literally. So, I mean, that's why.
Again, some of the best, if not the best, orb photos I personally have curated online. straight up. That's like, I mean, listen,
Thank
for
you.
what that's worth, I host, one of maybe 3 podcasts about people that have seen fairies on the entire internet. It's extremely small group of people doing this work. And, I have the luxury in my personal life to really be into this. And I have looked at all sorts of stuff for hours and hours and hours and hours. Going back to where we started, this isn't just dust on Facebook. This is your stuff is a cut above. Because of everything you're talking about, now I understand why I'm able to say those images stand out. Because like they're coming from this, from you, and they're coming in the way that you're describing here tonight. So that's why they're so powerful. But yeah, like I think that the computer, the camera, the smartphone is at the end of the day just stuff from the ground. It's just stuff out of the ground. They hauled out the copper. That's your transistors. The oil is the plastic for the casing and the wire casings, and you get the idea.
Yeah.
The camera lens is just sand from the beach, melted into glass and ground down. You can eventually understand how every part of that machine is assembled because it all came from the ground. So it is of the earth, just like everything else around us. It is basically just the accumulated stardust, like everything around us. And I think that this is why the Fae can interact with it.
Yeah.
I've struggled with that. I'm like, how are they fucking with a computer? Are they digital? Are they like, I couldn't understand it for the longest time. Because I'm like, these are digital devices. Digital is something supernatural. Digital is like, and then I just like really had to ask myself, like, okay, because the folklore suggests that the Fae are kind of like in the ground, which I think is an old way of saying they are of the earth.
They are of the earth, yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's literally trying to say they're in the ground. I mean, that is literally true too, I think, but I think that the idea of the Fae coming from the earth is sort of suggestive of the fact that like they're as much a part of what animates life on earth as anything, And so by that measure, I mean, if the plants are both photosynthesizing quantum particles of light in quantum superpositioning, they're at the same time pulling physical minerals and other things out of the ground to make themselves, And so is a computer alive? No. But again, like what is alive could maybe quite substantially be broadened to include anything that is in contact with light.
Yeah.
And so therefore, like, in big and small ways, depending on how the electricity in that device was generated, how did that charge get into your battery? Well, that may have come from a light source of some type, like a reburning of fuel, like an oil burning in a coal plant. Well, that coal was trapped light from a plant, thousands of years ago that turned into oil. It all, at the end of the day, just comes back to that big ball of light in the sky and the collected stardust having come to life. And so even though I'm not saying computers and cameras are alive and stuff, when you ask how can an interdimensional, physical, formless, but yet still alive, conscious individual, learning, growing, emotionally aware thing exist, and you want to just keep going on, it's just not that hard of a reach to realize like it can probably interface with your technology.
Yeah, and manipulate it. They can manipulate energy, absolutely.
And so when you're holding a digital camera in your hand, are you really holding a digital camera? Or are you just holding, like I don't know how to say it right, but I mean, are you just holding yet another piece of this interdimensional quantum superpositioned light soup? Like, I mean, I guess basically like what is real is really what it boils down to. Because if you can get camera photos of orbs and others can't, and that's not to say that the cameras are working differently. It's to say that the true nature of reality is far more influenced by both the things that you're trying to photograph and yourself.
Yes, it's a combination. No.
It's way more of a confluence.
The camera is like my paintbrush, really, or my instrument, my musical instrument, you know.
I feel like when I'm editing my podcast, it's the same way. I'm just clicking, and this mic is like my paintbrush because that's where I'm at with my physical capability. And I've talked to a number of artists who are channeling the Fae through pen and ink, through clay and, cloth, and but no less actually capturing a real image of an interdimensional than you are with your digital camera and these photos.
Yeah.
I truly think that Brett and her pen work, which is insane, is no different than you with a camera in your hand getting insane photos of orbs, while I could stand with a pen in my hand and not produce anything like what Brett produces, and somebody could stand next to you with a camera in their hand and not get anything like what you get. I think that the tool is there, it's part of it, but I think the holder of the tool is part of it. I think the Fae or the orb energy presence is a part of it.
Yes.
And that it is.
It's a recipe.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to say it. It's a recipe. I also think that it's semi-replicable scientifically.
Yes, absolutely.
Meaning if you got that recipe correct again, other people could experience the same outcomes.
Yes.
And that's where going back to where we started, and I think we'll finish up here soon about the dustless room. Because the hypothesis of this show is kind of evolving into the following: be it resolved, the Fae are real. And, here are, currently this would probably be like episode 33 or something, Liz. So here are 33 arguments in favor of that hypothesis, With that said, I'll ask you my favorite wrap-up question that I ask to all of the guests who come on to Fascinating Fae. As I go to let you go here today. And I mean, I could talk to you again for hours about the different representations of faces in these orbs, how you feel about these orbs potentially being animals as well as departed, as well as groups. I mean, you bring up so many things that could be their own part too, and probably we'll end up doing that. But for tonight, the question I'll ask, and I always say this to everyone who comes on the show, there is no wrong answer here or right answer here, because no one has a fairy in a jar that they're photographing. We haven't really talked too much about your sparkly fairy encounters, which is why I'll bring you back for a part 2, because I do want to ask about that stuff as well. But
I'll send you some photos.
Thank you. And that'll be a great teaser, I think, to help bring you back for part 2, because I'm going to show the audience hey, do you want to talk to Liz some more and hear about these now? Because your orbs are pretty much what's mainly on your page. I didn't really see what you're referring to up there currently. So, but anyway, the question, no right answer, no wrong answer. No one's got a fairy in a jar. This is just about receiving your opinions and thoughts on the matter in an uninterrupted way. What do you think these orbs are? What do you think fairies are, Liz?
Well, orbs themselves are a thing within themselves. They are an interdimensional network of beings of light. I think, from what I've gathered from my own reading and information and from channeled messages from other mediums, they seem to be like an interdimensional Uber, where you can travel between the dimensions. You can visit from one dimension to another via an orb being a spherical shape, the roundest, strongest shape to be able to slip between dimensions. Also symbolic of eternity, symbolic of how life never ends, it just changes form and dimension. The orbs, I mean, there's a really great quote, which I could only butcher if I tried to say it, but I'll find it for you in my research when I send you these photos, about the orbs are here to basically lift us, which they do. And while I say that the orbs are attached to a certain person and so on, I'm speaking specific orbs attached to a certain person. Anyone can probably go out and get an orb photo. That's not hard to do. You just need a camera. It doesn't have to be a good one, with a flash, and you just put it into the night sky. It would help if you asked. It would help if you invited someone. It would help if you had probably music playing and you were in a happy mood. They seem to be attracted to high vibrational happiness, lightness, joy. If you're that way inclined, take a camera out. Parties, they love parties, they love music. Take a camera out and just flash around the sky, and I'll bet you'll get something on camera. But what are they? I think they're just another form of souls. They're just souls without the body. That's why they use this orb system to come and visit us. That's why the faces in the orbs. I've seen some faces in the orbs that I absolutely recognise and could put a photo next to and go, that's my great-grandmother who I never met, but here's a photo of her and that is her face. So, I mean, she's taken that moment to sort of show herself in orb form to come and visit me and sort of, check in and say hi, which is very, very cool. It just shows that love goes on throughout the dimensions. Death is not the end of absolutely anything. It's just probably the end of your body, but it's not the end of your soul. It's not the end of existence. It's not the end of your relationship with anybody that you've loved or love. The fairies, I think the fairies have always been here. They're part of the Earth's network of upkeep. I mean, they have jobs to do, as do orbs. They have jobs to do. They clean things. The fairies help the trees and the flowers and the water and the grass and the birds, and they interact with all of these things. I'm sure the orbs do too. I couldn't tell you exactly what the orbs do in terms of whether they clean the stuff in the air or in the plants, but you can see them hanging around things. You can see them in the plants. You can see them in the trees. You can see them in water. So are they doing something with that? Probably. I mean, I don't know. That's later on in my research, I think, when I get to talk to them a bit more. What's got to develop my mediumship abilities further than they currently are. But what they are is around us all the time. They're not gone. That's all.
Those are beautiful answers. Honestly, great answers.
Oh, good.
The thing about orbs that I want to just add that I often have thought about is that they're also round that way because, like, if you are just a spirit soul, like you're saying,
yeah,
and you're kind of like moving around, that's a really efficient form to hold with your mind. And
strong. It's also a strong form. No corners to bend or break, or it's a strong, yeah.
Like Jem, the woman I'm referring to, who's got amazing video, certainly has a video of like what could best be described as an orb, then changing shape into a frog, and then jumping from that frog shape in an incredible way into the hedgerow of her rock wall in her UK garden. But I think like what I'm seeing is like, it's what you're saying, that it's a spirit in orb form. The orb form is an extremely easy to maintain representation of spirit self because it's like all the check boxes you're saying, strong. Like if you think about like the fact that this orb is changing into a frog, then that means that it can shapeshift, like Ron is saying.
Yes.
And if that's true, then you have to assume that the act of shapeshifting is somehow taxing,
Yes, I would imagine so.
Yeah, like if an octopus changes color and shape real quick, that uses caloric energy in that octopus to do that, for going back to the caloric energy stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that the shape of an orb is very energy efficient.
Yes.
As well as everything you just said. Do you think that the other dimensions that the orbs are used to go between, do you think that they're elsewhere, or do you think that they're overlaid on top of us?
As in like living on the earth on top of us, do you mean?
Yeah, do you think that other dimensions are here on Earth, or do you think they're out somewhere else?
Oh no, they're here. I mean, I've seen some amazing faces in orbs that are not human. They're just not human. They could only be extraterrestrial. In fact, I've even got some video and photos of these beings, which I, for want of a better name, I called them bead beings, because they were not orbs, but they were light like an orb, as in emitting light. They changed colour. I didn't need the camera to see them. They were like hovering in front of me and changing colour, like an LED would change colour, except they looked like a bead. They were shaped like a bead with round sides and straight ends. And they were interacting with the orbs. I've got several photos of them just with an orb flying around the sky, almost like they were either chasing or playing. These are not normal orbs. I think they're probably extraterrestrial ships or orbs or something. I've also got long strings. I mean, now we're going way out here, but we've got long strings of lights, different coloured lights. They're all on my site, but I can't explain any of it.
You've got, some of your orbs are like sea cucumber shape almost. Like there's some, almost like caterpillar-like. They're just wild. You have some amazing photography.
Well, when you're out every night taking photos, you're bound to see something interesting, you know.
You know, you're not the only person who's out every night with their camera taking photographs of interdimensionals. I'm really starting to understand there's a hidden network of people doing this stuff.
There is. There's a lot of us now, actually. It's growing and it's wonderful. I mean, there can't be too many. It's all these things that we just don't think are around us are. They really are.
That last little sneak in statement may be the sleeper home run of this entire episode. There cannot be too many. I like that. It's really, really well said. Anybody listening who thinks, oh yeah, Fascinating Fae is doing this job, start your own podcast, please. Let's get like 100 fairy podcasts going. It's good for everything. There cannot be enough people doing this work. You're right. And I have that feeling all the time of like privilege. Like, whoa, I get to, like, I'm one of the few people with a popular podcast about fairies on Earth. That's crazy. I'm like one of the few people talking to people about this.
It's fantastic. It's really good.
But then at the same time, I always come back to like, yeah, but I'm just a dude who saw a fairy. So it could be anybody. Anybody could be behind this mic on either side. Just remember that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a photographer. I'm a musician. So, I mean,
there you go.
Like it's a transition from one thing to another, you know, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a podcaster. So there you have it.
I'm just a muso with a camera.
Well, you know, I really appreciate so many elements of this beautiful conversation here tonight. What I'm going to ask is just allow me to do some housekeeping as Mr. Podcast host here for a moment. While I do that, Liz, think about maybe some last words, as I do like to give my guests the last word on Fascinating Fae. So basically what I'd like to say to the audience listening tonight is I just really want to appreciate how nuanced and how many check boxes this conversation hit tonight for a Fascinating Fae episode, especially given that Liz is not a listener and she and I had not previously spoken. My intuition and the quality of her photos started off this journey, and what a great talk it's been. So thank you for that, Liz. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
Totally a pleasure. I just love these conversations so much, and I'm like, wow, I got to do that. That's so great. So I mean that, and I appreciate you, again, that calm, quiet, articulate nature, so supportive of this discussion, so supportive of this subject matter, because it needs that voice to be, as emotionally like, oh, and then this orb, and then that orb, and oh, that wouldn't be a good conversation, right? That would be like, the skeptic listening is going to poke a hole and saying that lady had too many coffees today, or whatever. But by contrast, you truly are a metered, very articulate, very good advocate and representative for everything being discussed. And that pairs with the quality of your photos. I've said this before, but I do want to say that again as we go to leave here tonight. So that part of the housekeeping done. If you have photographed orbs, if you have had weird stuff going on with electronic devices that can best be described as analogous to what Liz and I are talking about here tonight, shoot me an email. It's encounters@fascinatingfae. You're welcome to come on the show. This is not a show for experts. We're here to talk to normal people who are encountering the abnormal, especially the abnormal as it relates to fairies or things that are full of light and are just really fascinating and interesting or otherwise impossible to describe. That's the whole jam here at Fascinating Fae, and so you're welcome to join that conversation anytime. You can also find the episode notes that I'm referring to, so some of these pictures that Liz is going to send that might not be on her Instagram, at fascinatingfae.com, and all the socials are at fascinatingfae. As we go to leave here tonight, I do have to say, because it's an important part of this show, that a super big thanks on behalf of all of the human and non-human listeners tuning in to Fascinating Fae tonight, to Liz from Australia for spending this gracious amount of time with us talking about orbs. Big thanks for that, Liz. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Jim. It's been a really fun interview, and it's so good to speak with like-minded people about such an important topic.
Totally thought-provoking, emotionally stimulating, really interesting. I mean, it really has been a great one for the books for sure. And I can't tell you how much I really appreciate that. And so without further ado, I'll let you have the last word as we go to leave here tonight.
Well, what can I say after all that we've been said? All I can say, I suppose, is may the orbs be with you.
Hey, the fire has come, and I can hear the beating drum. So I dance between the flames, burning bright on the yin and yang. When we arrived and we came to here, we forgot why we decided to come. When we arrived and we came to heal, we forgot why we decided to come. Hey, the night is dark, and I yearn to make a spark. It turns to flames, then I get burned, and again, until I learn. When we arrived and forgot why we decided to come. When we arrived and we came to here, we forgot why we decided to come. When we arrived and we came to here, we forgot why we decided to come. When we arrived and we came to here,